Finally, my first day at school has come. Yay! This special occasion called for my favorite hoodie. Super cool, right? But then, out of nowhere, I was blocked by a group of boys and their cheesy pickup lines. No time for monkey business, but they wouldn't let me go. Hey, do you know who I am? Everything suddenly went blurry. Oh no, my glasses! I stumbled around trying to grab them back, but got shoved to the floor. Everyone scram! Gimme that. I looked up and vaguely saw my hero offering me a hand. He gave me my glasses and I profusely thanked him. But he just gave me a cold look and walked off without saying a word. Strange. Oh, by the way, I'm Hazel Palmer, 17 years old. But I'm not here as a student, but a teacher. Yes, you heard it right. Not to brag, but I'm kind of a genius. I even got offered a position in my college's research project, which I have rejected to pursue my dream of becoming a high school teacher. So here I am, on my very first day of fulfilling it. First, I was introduced to the other teachers, but unlike what I had in mind, they just threw me judgy looks. Luckily, after the meeting, a young teacher named Rebecca kindly welcomed me and even tipped me off about some of the rebels at school. Now, time to meet my students. As soon as I finished my introduction, the whole class immediately turned into a beehive. Miss, how about we continue this lesson at the movies tonight? Mullet, pierced nose. This guy must be the notorious Lucas that Rebecca warned me about. Please, as if you'd date someone who would wear such a goofy hoodie. Yeah, who let a weeaboo teach here? Jeez, I didn't expect this reaction. I tried to restore the silence, but to no avail. Ugh, I'm out of patience. Quiet, or else you'll all get Fs. Thank God it worked. Whew, that'll show them who's in charge. But here comes another problem. No way! There's gotta be someone who's really here to study, right? Okay, who is our class's top student?
Ethan!
Ah, didn't he help me in the hallway? But it looked like he didn't recognize me. Okay, let's see. Ethan, right? Could you solve this equation? Equation? No, equation.
I suppose spelling is a bit hard for a numbers person like you.
And the whole class burst into laughter. Jeez, this guy was unbelievable. How about the second best student? Cassie Santiago? That name sounded just like my old classmates. I turned to the corner where an arm reluctantly raised. Oh my, it's her! So good to see a familiar face here. But why is she avoiding me? That afternoon, while walking to my car, I saw Cassie and her friends picking on a girl. Upon seeing me, they immediately ran away, but I managed to catch Cassie. Cassie, since when did you become a mean girl? None of your business. Report me to the principal if you like. Then she strutted away, leaving me standing there confused. Since when had the sweet Cassie ended up on the dark side? Turned out, not long ago, Cassie's father passed away in an accident, leaving her to live with her stepmother. This must left her in so much grief that she put up this cold, reckless facade as a defense mechanism. That's so sad. So, to make Cassie feel included, and also to improve this whole class's performance, I came up with a master plan. More homework, not finished, minus points. And every lesson will come with a gift. A test during recess, and I asked Cassie and Ethan to help the other students. But when I called Cassie to the board, strangely, she couldn't do a simple equation. At first, I thought that it was just her being rebellious, but during the test that day, I noticed her copying Ethan's answers. Does that mean all her A's were from cheating? Not only that, the even shocker thing I found out was that Ethan was her stepbrother. After class, I came to talk to her, but she didn't pay me any attention. Cassie, I know the secret behind your A's. High scores mean nothing when they're not from your own hard work. But out of my business. You're as much my friend as you are a proper teacher. I'd be pleased to tutor you. How about today? See you in the library after school. As if I care. Her words did hurt, but I guess she was just trying to keep her cold image. So I still waited for her, but she never showed up. No matter how much I tried, Cassie ignored me and kept cheating. During the midterm test, she even blatantly snatched Ethan's paper. It's true she's my friend, but I couldn't let it slide any longer, so I dismissed her test. That had to be done. On the same day, while I was in the library searching for materials, I heard familiar voices talking. Ms. Palmer is way too much. She even dismissed Cassie's test today. Can you believe this? Why can't she be understanding like you? Cut her some slack, Sadie. She's just doing what she thinks is best. So, that's what my students really thought of me? After everything I did to try and help them, Yet all I got back was bad-mouthing? And Rebecca was so nice to defend me like that. No wonder they liked her. A few days later, the unexpected happened. Cassie, Lucas, and a few others came and asked for extra lessons. Finally, they started to have another eye on studying. But little did I know that it's just a ruse from my dear students to turn the following days into a nightmare. And the instigator was Lucas, I supposed. One day, I almost fainted upon finding a huge ant nest inside my bag. The other day, my pants were stuck to the chair with some gum. Fortunately, Ethan always showed up in time to help me. He's such a riddle. Unlike before, not only did he try to defend me in class, but he also helped me carry my textbooks. But I didn't expect him to care that much. One time, I saw him at the car wash where I worked part-time. I quickly hid behind a car, but Ethan just kept walking towards my wash box.
I'm here to see you, so no need to hide. Let me give you a hand.
After my shift, Ethan took me home. We talked a lot, and I felt comfortable enough to tell him about my mom's health condition, and how I took this part-time job to cover her hospital fee. This side of him was far different from the normal, and it was heartwarming. Suddenly, we noticed an elderly lady who seemed lost, so we offered to take her home. And guess what? She's the grandma of the notorious Lucas. I was truly surprised by how much of a rebel like Lucas cared for his Nana. I could tell he really loved her a lot. Poor boy. She's the only family he got now. Lucas, I know studying is not your thing, but have you thought about how happy your grandma would be if you at least tried? Since then, Lucas stopped causing me any mischief, and so did the other students. Now they could even do simple math themselves. Baby steps. Seeing my effort finally bore fruit, I set up a parent meeting to report students' progress. Halfway through my presentation, a photo of me cosplaying as Sailor Moon popped up on the screen. Oh my god, why is it here? How dare you let this childish thing teach my kids? Then she stormed off, followed by everyone else. I thought I finally had my students on my side. Turns out I never did. Then came the last straw, my mom's medical test results. I couldn't help but cry, letting all my bottled up emotions out. Then, suddenly, a hand laid on my shoulder.
What's wrong?
My mom's health turned worse, and she needs an urgent operation.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's all gonna be okay. Be strong, Miss Palmer.
I appreciated him comforting me, and when I felt a bit better, we decided to leave. But the door was locked from the outside. It must have been a prank from my students. Again! We tried banging the door and screaming for help, but eventually gave up and waited for someone to come. This quiet atmosphere sure does have a way of making people open up, and I got to know about Ethan.
Seemed like both of us have problems with our beloved family.
What's yours?
I have a sister. You know who. That I really adore. But no matter how hard I try, she always builds a wall between us.
Oh, wasn't this the first time Ethan talked about his personal life? He always put on a cold and distant mask. But I knew deep down he had his struggles too. I was so absorbed in his story that I forgot about being locked up and gradually fell asleep, until a buzzing sound startled me. And countless phone cameras were pointing at us. Guys, check your phones. Look what Miss Palmer and Ethan have been doing this whole time. Oh my! A bunch of photos of me and Ethan had been uploaded on the school website. And from some angles, it looked like we were kissing. Oh no! I tried to explain, but they just threw me a disgusted look. And why was Ethan just standing here saying nothing? This soon reached the principal. He told me there would be a case hearing for inappropriate relationship with a student. How was this even possible? As I dragged my feet to the principal's office, suddenly I heard familiar voices shouting.
Why did you do that?
I told you to find her weakness, and look what you got. Nothing.
I've done everything I could. What else do you want?
Everything? Then why is she still here? As long as she's around, she messes up our cheating stuff, and Mom will get my head chewed off for being useless at school. Or is that what you want, brother? What? So, Cassie had been pulling the strings this entire time? And Ethan was her puppet, befriending me just to please his sister. I knew she hated me, but did Ethan have to be so heartless too? Cassie then caught my eye, so I ran away. I was still trying to process this when I walked in to see the school council glaring at me.
You're an insult to the teaching profession, which leaves us no choice.
I was ready for the worst, when Ethan rushed in.
Stop! It was me who deliberately jammed the classroom's lock to get back at her for being too strict, but I accidentally got stuck too. There's nothing going on between us.
And so, I was cleared of all charges, and Ethan ended up in a week-long suspension. Why did he do that after all? After such a long trial, I drove around town to blow off some steam. Then saw Cassie fighting with a security guard. I found out that Cassie stole a bracelet and was refusing to call her parents. The guard said he'd have to call the cops, so I came forward as her teacher to bail her out. Cassie asked me why I helped her, but I didn't bother explaining myself and just left. Since that day, Cassie didn't attend the extra classes. After his suspension, Ethan returned with his offhand attitude. No time to worry about those two. My mission now was to prepare my students for the upcoming finals and regain my prestige. Luckily, they started to take studying seriously and invested a lot in these tests. One day, when I walked into class, some students even asked me to help solve advanced exercises. 2 weeks later, when the results came, my excited students all rushed over to me. Miss Palmer, thanks to you, the questions were the same as the ones you showed us the other day, so it only took us a blink to finish. What are they talking about? Before I could understand, the principal summoned me to his office. As I entered, he angrily showed me the math sheet that I was allegedly teaching in the extra class.
What kind of work ethic allows leaking exam questions, Miss Palmer?
Leak the test? Me? No! Please!
No more excuses. You're fired.
No! They can't punish me for something I didn't do. Someone must have framed me. I asked my students where they got that piece of paper, and they said it was already on the table when they came to class. So Cassie and Ethan must have been behind this. Good job, Ethan, for putting up their remorse act just to set up a bigger plan to humiliate me. Okay then, they won. Unemployed and desperate, with hospital bills to cover, I had to work full-time at the car wash, as well as taking night shifts at 7-Eleven. But besides the measly wages was a bonus of rotten eggs and tomatoes, scornful looks, and snarky comments saying I didn't deserve the teacher title. The scandal truly turned my life upside down. Then, when I was at the hospital with my mom, suddenly Ethan rushed in and said he would clear my name. Clear my name? Wasn't he the one who put dirt on me? What was he playing this time? With nothing to lose, I reluctantly went with him. He led me to the school's control room. The principal was also there. Then I saw Sadie standing on stage. Ethan said it was her who discreetly put the math sheet on the table. What? But, Rebecca? I distributed the test like you said, but I'm scared. What if someone finds out? Don't worry, now that Miss Palmer's fired, who else can dig this up? I'm only taking back my position as the beloved teacher who can take cover for y'all. No, I have to tell the principal everything. Who would believe you?
I would.
Furious, I rushed over to the stage and confronted her. Rebecca, I thought you were my friend. How could you? Don't ask me. Ask your phony self. Weren't you just trying to get the students to like you? What nonsense was she saying? I'm just doing my part of being a good teacher. How could she be so selfish and cruel? Out of jealousy?
Miss Palmer earned her students' respect with her pure heart. Look at you. The so-called love you have comes from buttering them up with all your lies. That's why they turned stubborn and make light of studying. I never knew you were that kind of person. How could you call yourself a teacher?
The principal couldn't hide his rage, fired Rebecca, then apologized to me and offered me my job back. But after all these troubles, this school had completely drained me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I refused. As I was wiping away my tears, Ethan came to my side.
Miss Palmer, I'm sorry for everything I did. I just tried to please Cassie, but now I know I was only hurting you.
I've already known about that. I was about to leave when a group of students led by Cassie approached us. Then Ethan told me it was Cassie who helped him with the plan to bait Rebecca into admitting her actions. Sorry for all the horrible things I did to you. Please stay.
We've learned a lot since you moved here. Please don't leave us.
Such a crazy term. I ended up staying. I mean, this is my dream job after all, and I'm not one to give up that easily. I also talked to Cassie's stepmom about her studying. Turns out she didn't realize her strict approach was causing a rift between them all. Cassie, Ethan, and their mom had a talk, and now they seem to understand each other better. I was so happy for them, and we became friends after that. Time flies, and now my students, or my friends to be correct, graduated, and would soon fly off to pursue their own dreams. Suddenly, Ethan dragged me to a corner.
So from now on, we're no longer teacher and student, right?
I guess, but so...
But could you still teach me? Teach me how to love you.
Oh no. Vivian's friends were walking over to her, so I quickly pulled her aside and sternly told her to go home immediately. Vivian moved her hand away and said, "Huh? It's none of your business. I could be anywhere with anyone and you have no right to force me." "Fine then. If you don't come with me, then I'll call Owen and you'll no doubt be sent off to boarding school by the end of the week. Is that what you want?" She reluctantly said her goodbyes to her friends, then followed me home. I couldn't help but smile proudly. I'd done a good job. Victory felt good. I'm Easton, and if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2 of my story, I suggest you go and check them out. As for Vivian, no, I don't have some sort of superiority complex. I'm only bossing her about like this because her dad, Owen, gave me the job of supervising her. I have had her best interests at heart. As if she messes up, then he's going to send her to boarding school. I don't get it. I know Vivian doesn't want to be sent away, but why couldn't she just behave? She was so not a simple girl. In fact, Mischief should be her middle name. The next day when I walked into class, everyone was looking at me and laughing. Then the boy sitting next to me showed me a photo on his phone. Geez, what on earth was it? Yup, it was me asleep on my desk in my room. My mouth was wide open and I was drooling. Who the heck posted this online? Could only be Vivian. Suddenly, a paper plane hit my head. I unfolded it and read the message. "That was for embarrassing me in front of my friends, even Stevens." Well played, Vivian. Of course, I was far too much of a diligent and responsible person to bail on my mission because of some silly photo. You know what? Since I agreed to supervise Vivian, I always made sure she was in my sights. I followed her so closely that soon the rumors started circulating such as, "Are those two dating?" and "Easton is such a gold digger." But I just found their childish words amusing. Besides, I knew the truth. Until one day I was studying in the library when Lila sat down next to me. "What's going on between you and Vivian? I mean, you always seem to be together." I was too tongue-tied to reply, so Lila continued. "I think you should stay away from her. Trust me, there's nothing good about that type of girl." Out of nowhere, Vivian jumped in and shouted, "Oh, excuse me. What did you just say? So what type of girl do you think I am?" Everyone in the library stared at us. Lila could hardly answer, while Vivian's glare unnerved me. I was trying to find a way to cool things down, but Vivian just angrily swiped the book off the table, then stormed off. I wanted to chase after her, but Lila grabbed my arm and told me to ignore her. Then, in a sweet voice, she asked me to help her with her math problem. I forced a smile and replied, "Yeah, sure." After that, every time I saw Vivian, whether it was at school or home, she didn't say a word to me and instead just gave me death stares. Her look was a little on the scary side and made me feel uncomfortable, but above all else, it made me feel guilty. But I didn't understand why. I hadn't done anything wrong, right? Then one time, I was on my way to the canteen when I saw Grace. What was she doing here? I caught up with her and she said the principal had called as Vivian was in trouble again. But as Owen was on a last-minute business trip, she had to come. She's such a pain in the neck. I had to leave my nail appointment early. She waved her halfway painted nails in front of me. "Look, how hideous." I walked alongside Grace. Lunch would have to wait, as I needed to find out what Vivian had done now. I didn't understand it, as I had been keeping a close eye on her and I hadn't seen her do anything bad. From the outside, I saw both Lila and Vivian were in there. Grace stormed straight into the office and I stepped in behind her. It turns out the history exam had disappeared, and earlier on, Lila had seen Vivian sneaking into the teacher's classroom. Frustrated, Vivian shouted out, "No, that wasn't me. Lila made that up." But the principal didn't believe her and was persistent that Vivian had done it. He also said Lila was an exemplary student, and there was no reason for her to make this up.
"This is it. You're expelled,"
the principal declared. I looked at Vivian with concern, and she looked like she was about to cry. Right at that moment, Grace spoke up. "Do you have any other evidence besides this girl's words? How can you accuse Vivian like that when your only proof is another student's words? I don't think my daughter is that kind of person." Vivian looked up at Grace with her eyes widened. After discussing for a while, in the end, the principal changed his mind about expelling Vivian and decided this needed investigating further. Phew. I felt relieved. As we walked out of there, Vivian awkwardly looked at Grace and said, "Thank you," then ran away. It was strange seeing her acting all timid, but I guess what Grace did meant a lot to her, as after that, they stopped the petty feuding. Grace didn't tell Owen about what happened, and Vivian even asked her friend to take care of her pet dog for a while so Grace could have a break from sneezing. It was nice not living in a war zone, but more than that, this version of Vivian was, well, very cute. It was a Saturday night, and I was playing on the PS5 in the living room when Vivian appeared. Whoa, she was all dressed up and she looked, really good. "Later, losers. I'm going on a date with Carter," she waved at me. I immediately jumped up and blurted out, "No, you can't!" I mean, that's one of the taboos Owen had mentioned before. I tried everything to make her stay at home, but to no avail. So I grabbed my jacket and secretly followed them to their rendezvous. Yes, I was third-wheeling, but I needed to check nothing bad would happen to her. I mean, I'd promised Owen. I followed them to an open-air cinema. Ugh, cheesy. Sitting not far away, I saw them kissing, and then halfway through the movie, he took her hand and led her off. Where were they going? Looking at Carter's eager face, it wasn't hard to guess what he had planned. As Vivian's supervisor, I couldn't let that happen. So I immediately ran over to them, quickly wrapped my jacket around Vivian's waist, and whispered to her, "Your Aunt Flo is on her way over." Vivian looked startled, and to Carter's surprise, she hurriedly told me to take her home. When we arrived back, she rushed up to her bathroom. And just as I expected, exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds later, she ran up to me and shouted, "How dare you fool me! You ruined my 3-month anniversary date!" Then she angrily went back to her room and slammed the door. She could be mad with me if she wanted. I was just doing my duty. After that, Vivian refused to talk to me. And whenever I saw Carter, well, his death glares made his feelings toward me pretty darn clear. Then one day after school, while I was waiting for Vivian to appear at the school gate, my phone buzzed. It was from her. "I'm trapped in the girls' restroom on the 2nd floor. Please hurry." Without thinking much, I rushed over there. I was just about to bang on the cubicle door when I felt someone grab my collar and pull me back. It was the principal, followed by Carter and Vivian. What? Why was she there? This was so confusing. The principal made me follow them to their office, then accused me of being a peeping perv. What? I tried defending myself, but he didn't believe me. I suppose this wasn't surprising, seeing as I didn't tell them about Vivian's message. However mad I was with her for framing me, I knew if I landed her in trouble, she'd be expelled. And I didn't want that. Not only did it majorly suck that everyone thought I was a peeping Tom, but I also ended up being suspended for the rest of the week. I stayed in my room feeling glum and forced myself to study. But I couldn't concentrate on anything, not even physics. This was awful. While I was thinking about it, I heard a knock on the door. I opened it to see Vivian standing there. Great, now she was here to rub salt in the wound. Regardless of how much you hate me, you shouldn't have framed me like that. This could affect my future. I went to close the door, but she stopped it with her foot. Wait, I have some good news for you, she smiled at me. You can go back to school tomorrow. It was all Carter, so you're off the hook. I looked at Vivian with amazement and asked if it was true. As soon as she nodded, I immediately hugged her. A few seconds later, I felt like I was overreacting, so I let go of her and scratched my head shyly. Then Vivian told me everything. Turns out she found out that Carter had stolen her phone and sent me that message to trap me. Then he told the principal he'd seen me sneaking into the girls' restrooms. Vivian made him confess, but she secretly recorded it and sent it to the principal. So I wasn't suspended anymore. What a relief. Man, I'm really grateful to Vivian. But then I asked her, but Carter is your boyfriend. Nah, I've decided I've outgrown bad boys. Instead, I want someone caring and sweet. She grinned at me. Well, this was a few months ago, and although Vivian is still feisty and stubborn at times, she is taking her studies more seriously now. The atmosphere in our house is pretty good, which makes my life so much easier. And you know what? Vivian and Grace are even going shopping together. and I have to go and carry their stuff. Oh, and if you're wondering about Vivian and me, I guess a rebel and a top student can get on after all. I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
Hey, I'm Madison, and I was born into a well-off family. My parents are successful entrepreneurs who always fulfill their dearest daughter's wishes. Beautiful face, supermodel figure, I have both. But unfortunately, I'm not the only one. I have a limelight-hogging twin sister, Olivia. Since elementary school, my sister has won loads of trophies for her singing. Everyone was so spellbound by her that they seemed to completely forget about me. And it didn't help when Mom dressed us the same. Meanwhile, Dad was always like, "Whoa, I can barely tell my two princesses apart. Maddie, if your sister is tied up with her singing, you could help fill in her place in class." Ugh, it's not funny at all. Especially when that kind of came true. Later at 14, when I was still trying to figure out what today's homework was, my sister went and won The Voice Kids. At school, everyone kept giving me gifts and praises just to walk off on me as soon as they realized I wasn't Olivia. Hey, it's not like I intentionally tricked them. Trust me, I'm just as sick and tired of all this as everyone else, so I decided to take action. Ta-da! Did you recognize me? Still Madison here. The one-of-a-kind Madison with pixie hair, smoky eyes, nude lipstick, and this edgy outfit. I look different, right? But... Oh, are you cosplaying Olivia in her upcoming MV? Madison, you're ruining your sister's image. I tried to be different from her, but it couldn't change the fact that I'm the twin sister of a famous singer. There's so many things I wanted to do, but just imagine if I tried out for the cheerleading team or a modeling contest. People would be, "Look at the tragic Olivia wannabe." The name Olivia gradually became something that haunted me, and now she's constantly gaining in fame while I remain in her shadow. I have my own dream of becoming a model too, and I've gone to every audition I could, but so far, no luck. Oh right, let's check on my new video. Maybe YouTube will be the Kickstarter for my rise to fame. Remember to remove your makeup thoroughly, and the last step is subscribe to my channel to stay updated with the latest makeup trends. It's only been 10 hours, but look at this. There are over 200,000 views and 1,000 comments. Yay! Let's see. Like if you watch this just because you thought this was Olivia. When you're boring but you have a famous sister. Olivia, you're the GOAT. Please reply to my comment. What on earth is going on here? No one talked about the video content. It's all about Olivia. Why can't I get rid of that name? I am Madison. Frustrated, I closed the laptop to leave, but turned around to see the mean girls surrounding me. Silly, you should have titled it Skincare Tips from Olivia's Sister. There would have been millions of views by now. Someone with no talent like you should just stay in the dark. Please. Shut up! Just wait. One day y'all gonna become my fans too. Finally, what a long day. But isn't every beginning tough? Me quitting would be exactly what those mean girls wanted, so I can't give up now. I was struggling to set up my camera when Mom opened the door and peeked in. "You've started a YouTube channel? Why not ask your sister to help promote it?" But no worry. Everyone can obviously see that you're Olivia's sister. You'll probably receive a gold button soon anyway. Ugh, what do you know? I don't even need her help. And please stop entering my room without knocking. Nobody acknowledges my effort just because I look like her. Fine then, just wait and see. In 2 more months, I'll be 18 and be able to do one thing I've been dreaming of. That will put an end to all this unfairness I had to suffer. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Right here, right now, I'll be reborn. I'm ready to start my life anew. You can open your eyes and look at yourself, Ms. Lewis. Okay, 3, 2, 1. OMG in the mirror. A beautiful face. A stranger. Not like Olivia's or anyone I ever know. Finally, I can live my life with my famous sister out of my way. I wonder how my parents would react to this face that I myself don't even recognize. Hey, I'm home. Hello? But who are you? It's Madison, aren't you? What happened? Did you get plastic surgery? Plastic surgery? Didn't you say you were on vacation with your friends? Your beautiful face. Why did you? You mean Olivia's beautiful face. I'm done living in her shadow. Then I ran straight to my room, leaving them there all stunned. The next morning at school, all the girls' curious eyes were on me. And the boys? Needless to say, people were buzzing around. But there was no Olivia nor Madison to be heard. Nobody recognized me. I am the one and only now. Hey, Angel. Are you lost? Let me show you around. Since when did this mean girl become so friendly? You moving here is the right decision. Our school is the best in the state. Boring! If it weren't for my parents' new investment in this area, I wouldn't be at this shabby place. This fame-seeking silly girl instantly bought my bluffing. Her eyes widened, looking at me like a puppy. Then she did everything I asked her to. Buying me sodas, carrying my bag for me, and even wiping my seat. Suddenly, Alicia walked over and nudged Zara. Where have you been? I told you to get me a latte. And who's she? Oh, this is my new bestie. And you should go get your latte yourself, as I'll be busy showing my friend here around, right? Alicia's frown face was a picture. What a solid friendship these mean girls have. But the fun had only just begun. As the teacher did a roll call, I raised my hand up at the sound of Madison Lewis. The whole class gasped, and you betcha, Alicia and Zara's bewildered faces were hilarious. Didn't see that coming, huh? By recess, the whole school had heard the breaking news. Me, Madison, just got plastic surgery. Some were showering me with flattery, while some just kept judging the size of my eyes or my nose bridge, blah, blah, blah. But no one compared me to Olivia anymore. They just forgot about my famous twin sister. That's all I need. Madison is unique. Ouch! What's wrong with you? Are you blind? It was you going the wrong way, Madison. He looks so familiar, but I still can't think of his name. It's Dylan. Have you seriously forgotten my name already? That's right! My old neighbor Dylan. His family must have moved back to town again. But how could you recognize me right away? You look a bit different, but I can still tell from your voice. Forget the past. I'm the new Madison, the best version of Madison. Then I walked away from him. Now I'm finally free to do whatever I want without being compared to Olivia. I easily got that cheerleading captain title. From this spot, I can see all the impressed spectators and Zara's look of fury. She was the former captain who got dethroned by me. Then I went on and won the school beauty contest too. Alicia's boyfriend, Sid, even dumped her to chase after me. Who's the loser now, girl? But of course, a jerk like him didn't interest me, so I bluntly rejected him in front of everyone. One afternoon while I was going home, Sid jumped out of nowhere and blocked my way. Babe, girls are lining up to date me, but I picked you. Be my girl and you'll see. Come on, just one dinner. Let go of me! Suddenly, a big-looking guy rushed in, scared Sid off, and then offered to take me home. He introduced himself as Isaac, and turns out we were in the same chemistry class. Oh God, how come I never noticed this handsome boy? Probably chemistry had sucked the life out of me every time I entered that lab room, but it's okay. We can rebuild our chemistry here now. After that day, we texted each other all of the time, and a week later, we became an item. Fast, yes, but when you know, you know. Isaac took care of me during workouts, waited in the salon for hours, and even kept me updated with fashion trends. He's just perfect. But one time, when we walked hand in hand at the mall, I caught sight of Dylan's cold face. I suddenly felt awkward and tried to avoid his gaze. Strange, but why bother? Isaac and I were too busy discussing our upcoming plans anyway. I finally released my second video, and no one mentioned Olivia. But Gigi, Bella, Lily, Maymac? Now they're seeing me like those hot girls? Ridiculous! And talk kept coming about how I look like other stars. Maybe she brought their photos and asked the surgeon to copy them, but no way can replica compete with the original. Still, isn't it better to resemble your own sibling than being some stranger's copycat? So, did I really look like a carbon copy of someone else? Again? I rushed to Isaac. He's the only one I can trust.
Just a little, babe. But if you don't like it, there's always a way.
So I continued to undergo many other surgeries to find the perfect, unique Madison. Isaac was always there to encourage me. He was the one who suggested what part I should fix next. Sharper jawline, thinner nose, fuller lips. He has an eye for this, right?
Seems like your eyes still need some fixing. I'll take you there next week.
More? I know Isaac only wanted the best for me, but after pouring my fortune on endless plastic surgeries, I was completely broke, and no way would my parents agree to lend me some. Why not ask Isaac, you wonder? I can't do that. I'm not a gold digger. The surgery appointment was coming up, but I still couldn't gather enough money. What to do?
What's wrong? Fighting with your guy?
Desperate to offload, I blurted out my problem. So, could you help me out? I'll pay you back as soon as possible.
I don't know why you think you need all this surgery. If Isaac really loved you, no way would he make you do this. Let me knock some sense into this dude.
Dylan seemed so mad. I tried to pull his hand, but to no avail. Thank goodness someone blocked him. That's Olivia. I don't know what she said, but Dylan calmed down and went inside. Then Olivia walked towards me. You're already so pretty, Madison. Don't mind what others say. You guys don't know me at all. I'd rather be weirdly ugly than be pretty, but look the same as someone else. I don't want to be a copy of anyone. Then I stormed off immediately. Waking up after a restless night, I was reaching my phone to call Isaac, then saw an envelope of money on the nightstand. Is this from Olivia? Why did she... Never mind. No time to think, else I'm gonna be late for my appointment. Look, my face has healed just in time for my graduation ceremony. Pretty, huh? But I haven't been able to bring myself to be happy at all, as it's been over a month since Isaac ghosted me. After the eye surgery that day, Isaac insisted I have my nose fixed too. I said I needed more time to recover, but he got annoyed and just left. I've been looking forward to this graduation, which is compulsory for everyone, so he won't be able to avoid me anymore. My parents came too, but probably for Olivia, and today's spotlight is definitely hers. Suddenly, the crowd surrounding my sister gravitated to something else. Hang on, Isaac? Oh my God. Standing next to him is a girl who looks exactly like me, and her dress is identical to the one Isaac once gave me. I rushed over to confront him, but he flung me away. Wow, how buzzing! Both the real deal and the knockoff are here. Can you even tell them apart, Isaac?
Stop saying nonsense. My princess is the one and only.
Hey, you really do look a lot like me. Who are you? So after countless surgeries, I was still a doppelganger? All I want is just to be myself, to be unique. Why is it so hard? I felt rage filling up my body. I ran to the restroom to calm myself down, but it didn't help because I overheard the truth. Isaac and Naomi broke up when she moved abroad with her family. Guess she's back now. Yeah, how much he must love her to do all this. Great, now I get it. Isaac only wanted me to get plastic surgery to look like Naomi. But once his ex is back, he threw me away like a broken toy. So the gossip girls at school are definitely not missing out on this chance to mock me. Girls, stop! My sister, it's you who needs to stop. Don't you know you're the cause of everything?
Calm down, Madison. It's completely normal to look like someone. To me, and to your family, you've always been the one and only Madison.
No! I've never been seen as the only one! Then I told Dylan everything I'd bottled up inside, why I absolutely needed plastic surgery, why I was so obsessed with the fact that I resembled my sister. Everybody had always thought of me merely as Olivia's shadow.
I never knew that's how you felt. I'm sorry, Madison. We are such bad parents.
Startled, I turned around to see everyone. Madison, I've never looked down on you. I only thought I could use my reputation to make things easier for you.
We always try to do the best we can for you two. We thought this change in appearance was what you wanted. If only we'd realized the painful reason behind it.
Oh, wow. They actually cared this much about me? I cried even louder and ran straight into their open arms. Maybe Dylan was right. Maybe I really am special just for who I am, not for what I look like. The next day, I went to school to clear out my locker. High school is over. Now I can shake off all the bad memories I had here. Let's start things anew. Oh, finally found you. Naomi, right? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to copy you. I didn't know. It's all right. I know it wasn't your fault. I swear I had no idea Isaac was that much of a jerk. I immediately dumped him and exposed him online. How could he think us girls are just replaceable items? He even had the cheek to cry and beg me. But men like him don't ever deserve to be near us. I thought you'd be angry with me. For what? Madison, I'm truly sorry for what you had to go through. But everything has a bright side to it, don't you think? What do you think about having another twin sister? My dream of becoming a star on a runway has finally come true. But the most amazing thing was finding a companion with the same passion as me, who's none other than my new identical twin, Naomi. Bet no one can tell us apart.
Miss Madison Lewis, would you go on a date with me after this?
Oh, but I'm Naomi.
Don't ever think you can fool me, Madison. You've always been different in my eyes.
Have you ever questioned if your teacher hates you? I wish I didn't have to, but yep, my teacher hated my guts, and she went out of her way to make it very clear. I'm Lori, by the way. I'm 15 years old, and I guess you could say I kind of stand out because of my looks. People say I'm kind of pretty. Anyway, this year I started high school, although I only joined halfway through the year because I was off sick for 6 months with glandular fever. Yep, I had the dreaded mono. I was so tired of lying in bed feeling sorry for myself. So when the doctor said I could finally go back to school, I was over the moon. Little did I know what was in store for me. On my first day, I had to show all my teachers my hospital certificate to explain why I'd missed so much of the year. When I gave it to Miss Atkin, my math teacher, she smiled and said, "Welcome. Nice to see you feeling so much better." I smiled back at her and said, "Thank you." And I was about to walk away when suddenly she said, "Excuse me, you're Lori Hannison?" Her face looked all weird, and when I told her, yep, that was me, something inside her changed. She gave me a cold stare and told me to go to my seat immediately. I was confused a little bit about her attitude, but then I moved on from it. The most important thing was how I could catch up with my class. After missing 6 months of math, I was super behind and couldn't understand anything. My mom had to hire a tutor for me, and he was such a good teacher. Only after 3 months, I finally caught up with them. I had a notebook from our sessions with lots of notes inside, and whenever I couldn't remember something, I'd just look at it. Well, one day, I had it on my desk at school, and Miss Atkin caught me seeing my notes. She marched towards me, grabbed it, and slammed it down in front of me. She was so angry and got right up in my face and said, "Never, ever bring another teacher's notes to my class. Do you hear me?" As she said that, a little bit of spit flew out of her mouth and landed on my nose. I was horrified. Why was she so angry at me? It kinda scared me, and I thought maybe she was just angry because I wasn't as good at math as everyone else. After that, I didn't dare bring my notebook to class, but sometimes I still struggled, so I'd ask my friend who sat nearby to help me. Miss Atkin always caught me asking her and would put me in detention. One time I just sneezed too loud and she gave me detention. I mean, can you even believe? It annoyed me so much that I started to rebel. I'd often fall asleep in her class, and I seriously lost all motivation to do well. And that's not all. One day, I wore a new dress to class, and I swear I looked exactly like all the other girls at school. But Miss Atkin publicly embarrassed me by making me stand up in front of everyone, then said, "Girls and boys, Lori is a fine example of someone who pays more attention to what she wears than to studying. Don't be like Lori." I could feel myself blushing, and I wanted to cry. She was deliberately being mean to me, and I had no idea why. I was not that kind of girl. I normally loved studying, and I didn't care about clothes and shoes at all. I couldn't say anything, though, because if I spoke back to her, she'd give me a worse grade. What made it all even worse was that she was also the cheerleading coach, and she had her pack of cheerleaders following her around everywhere. One time I was standing in the hall talking with my friend Joe. We'd been best friends since we were like 3 years old, and we also live in the same street, so we'd grown up together. Joe always had my back. So we were standing there chatting when Miss Atkin and some of her fave students walked by. Suddenly I heard one of the girls say, "Oh look, surprise, surprise, it's Lori flirting with a boy again." Then one of the other girls said, "Seriously, she's such a fake. I mean, she's using her illness to get attention from boys. How pathetic." I couldn't believe it. Did they think I was deaf or something? They were the ones who were fake with their thick layers of makeup and all of their gossip and drama. I didn't really care that they were saying these things, but what really got to me was the way Miss Atkin laughed along with them. I actually saw her nod her head, so she agreed with them. I knew that wasn't okay, and Joe saw it too. He was so angry and grabbed my hand and said we had to report her to the principal. I stopped him though and said, "Just leave it. I am still the new girl here, and I don't want to cause any drama. And anyway, I have a plan." I smirked at him as I said this. So, Miss Atkin has this policy where if someone's phone rings in class, they have to answer it on speakerphone. And that policy includes her, too. So that day, I pretended to bump into her as she entered the class and watched as her phone dropped out of her hands. I quickly picked it up and apologized for being so clumsy, but at the same time, I unmuted it when she wasn't looking. Easy peasy. You see, I'd arranged for Joe to call her. This was going to be hilarious. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, her phone started ringing loudly. Her ringtone was Beyoncé's Single Ladies, and everyone burst out laughing. She freaked out and quickly grabbed her phone to cancel it. But Joe was persistent. He just kept calling, and everyone in class reminded her of the policy, so she had no choice but to answer it. Well, just wait for this. She answered, and suddenly Joe's voice filled the room. But he'd put on a funny accent to make himself sound older. Honey, don't forget about our secret date at our favorite hotel tonight. Miss Atkin looked like she wanted to die. She said, "Who is this? I don't know you." Then Joe said, "Come on, baby, what's up? Is your husband there?" Miss Atkin was now visibly shaking and said, "You've got the wrong number." But Joe wouldn't stop. "Ah, you're so cute. I'll see you tonight, baby. Get ready for a fun night. Wink, wink." At that, Miss Atkin hung up and the whole class was just deathly silent. I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from laughing. Joe had really outdone himself. However, I hadn't exactly thought it all through, because a couple of days later, Joe and I were about to walk home when he got called into the principal's office. I went with him, but they wouldn't let me in. I could see Miss Atkin in the room along with the principal and Joe. She'd somehow found out that it was Joe who'd called her, and now the principal said that Joe would be expelled and that his parents would need to come in for a meeting the following day. Oh my God, this was all my fault. When he came out, I rushed over and started apologizing, but Joe said, "Don't worry, I did it, so I'll take the responsibility." I was beside myself with guilt. I just kept saying, "Joe, no, this is my fault. I'm the one who should be expelled." But Joe wouldn't even listen to me. Well, that evening I told my parents the whole story. I was crying as I told them, and obviously they were angry, but they were also supportive. The next day, Joe's parents came for their meeting. The principal was there, and the school board, and of course, Miss Atkin. Luckily, my parents arrived just in time to interrupt the meeting, and we burst into the room. We told them the truth, how I'd been so ill and had to get a tutor, and that's why I carried that notebook. Then how Miss Atkin had treated me so badly and been so rude to me the whole time. I told them the phone call incident had been my fault and that Joe had just wanted to help me. Suddenly, Miss Atkin stood up and pointed at me and said, "I knew it was you. You spoiled brat. You should be expelled." What happened next was crazy. My mom jumped up and said, "How dare you speak to my daughter like that? You hate her because she's my daughter. Get over it, Angela. It's been years." Well, Miss Atkin ran towards my mom and said, "You're a horrible woman, and so is your daughter. You deserve each other." She was about to grab my mom, but my dad jumped up and stopped her. I didn't understand what was happening. Everyone was so shocked. The principal looked so puzzled. Then he told us all to go home and calm down. When we got home, my mom sat me down and said, "If you're being mistreated, you need to tell us. Don't suffer it out alone, okay?" I told my mom I was fine, and that school was great, but then my dad interrupted and said, "You're fine? Don't lie to us. You were almost expelled." Then my mom said, "Honey, calm down. It's not her fault. You saw her teacher. She's a demon." Then my dad just laughed, and I was so confused. Then he said, "Oh yeah, Lori, we should have told you this already, but Miss Atkin was at school with us." Then they told me how the three of them had gone to high school together, and both my mom and Miss Atkin had a crush on my dad, so they became sworn enemies. They fought all the time, and Miss Atkin had been expelled from school because of my mom. Of course, my dad hadn't known all of that back then, and he'd fallen in love with my mom. Wow, now I understand the real reason Miss Atkin treated me like that. She was obviously still angry at my mom, and when she'd seen my name, she hadn't been able to control her anger anymore, and she'd just released it all on me. My mom said, "Lori, you look exactly like me in high school. Because I was pretty, so many people were jealous." Then she turned to my dad, smiled, and said, "I can see that Joe is quite similar to your dad. You should be careful." At that, Mom and I burst out laughing. My dad was just speechless. And guess what? It all worked out in the end. Miss Atkin got reassigned to another school, and Joe and I were only suspended from school for 2 weeks. Now we're closer than ever, and there's definitely some real chemistry between us. Finally, high school is getting good again, huh?
Hey, it's Haley back again. So, if you remember in the last part of my story, my best friend Kurt turned into a jealous jerk, all because he didn't get the opening solo in the concert. And being the sweet and caring guy that he is, Eric took me out to cheer me up. We were chatting about all things on Earth. He really helped ease my mind. But suddenly, there was an awkward silence. Then Eric said,
Haley, these last few months getting to know you have been so amazing. I was wondering if you'd consider, being my girlfriend?
"Oh my God, I never expected him to say that." I stared at him open-mouthed.
So?
He looked at me. That's when I realized that he was still waiting for my reply. It'd be a lie to say that I haven't thought about him in that way before. In fact, at that moment, I was so happy. I just wanted to give him the biggest hug right away. But instead, I clumsily told him to give me a little time. It was just a slip of the tongue due to me being nervous. But before I could correct myself, I saw his reaction. He couldn't even keep his cool anymore, and his hopeful face turned into an obvious frown. He looked like a little sulky puppy. Why does he have to be so cute? He told me,
Of course. But that means I still have a chance, right?
I couldn't help but smile and winked. Maybe. Then he drove me home. Before I got out of the car, I whispered to him, "Yes, I'll be your girlfriend," and quickly kissed him on the cheek, then ran as fast as possible into my house. My heart was beating so fast, and I peeked through the window to see him dancing and smiling beside his car. My boyfriend was just the cutest. We started dating and soon became the it couple in swing club. The other kids were always commenting on how perfect we were together. Everything was going so well. I not only had a solo in the concert, but I'd also get to duet with Eric, and our relationship was growing from strength to strength. Every day, I woke up to his good morning text, which included a voice message of him singing some sweet tunes for me. Then later at school, he gave me my favorite candy and a bottle of water to keep me hydrated throughout practice. He was just the best. The only downside in my life was Kurt, who barely spoke to me since the backpack incident. I missed him like crazy, but there was no excuse for the way he was acting, as I hadn't done anything wrong. I was just going to give him space and hope he'd eventually come around. Finally, the day of the concert arrived, and whoa! Miss Anderson had chosen to mention my performance, complete with my picture, to promote the event in the local press. I was so happy and proud of myself. Now, I just had to make sure I didn't mess it up. Luckily, I didn't. Even though I was super nervous, the duet with Eric went amazingly. I was so proud of him for not letting his nerves get in the way. The concert was a success as a whole. We were on the local press and news again after that. And guess who was featured on them the most? Yes, it was Haley Miller again. Then, a few days later, there were even rumors circulating school that a representative from a record label in LA was at the concert and that they had their eye on someone. That's it! It had to be me, right? I sang my heart out, and even kids I didn't know were coming up to me and telling me how I was the star of the show. I was so excited to go to the club meeting and hear my name announced. I walked into the room with a huge smile on my face. Then Miss Anderson made an announcement. As you all know, it's been leaked out that a label representative is interested in one of you. Well, I can now confirm that this is true. And the person in question is our very own Eric Jones. Congratulations, Eric. Eric looked so shocked, but not as me. Thousands of things went through my head. I was so overwhelmed, while the other kids clapped and cheered, and I just forced myself to do the same. I know he's my boyfriend, and he's very talented, but as you see, I'd been the one singing the closing solo. I was the one having strangers congratulate me, and I was the one on the press. While everyone was praising Eric, I swiftly left and went home. Eric kept on texting and calling me, but I ignored them all. I just needed some time alone to process my feelings. I didn't want to feel jealous of him, but I couldn't help it. I knew it was wrong, but wait. No, maybe it was not. I had the right to be upset, since I too had worked so hard for it, right? That night, I felt so down that I even skipped dinner and locked myself in my room with all these thoughts. Failure sucks. And sure, it's not easy to face it, but I knew I had to accept the truth, sooner or later. Eric did nothing wrong, and he deserved it, so I shouldn't make him feel bad for achieving his dream. So I sent Eric a message arranging to meet him tomorrow. I should at least properly congratulate Eric and apologize to him for my childish reaction, right? We met in the park, by the duck pond. Eric was already waiting for me, and I noticed how he looked so sad. I walked over to him and said, "Hi, Eric. Look, I've been a brat, and I'm so sorry. I was just disappointed in myself, so I wasn't ready to talk. But I'm okay now, and for sure. You deserve this opportunity. I know that. I'm so happy for you. I truly am." I held his hands and smiled, trying to cheer him up. He replied,
"It's okay, Haley. It must have been hard for you. I know you meant well."
He smiled back.
"Just so you know, I've turned the offer down anyway. I'm not ready to leave this town, or, you, just yet."
Whoa, this was crazy. As if he'd actually turned down the opportunity of a lifetime for me. Then he continued,
"Besides, I'm not confident enough yet. I still get such bad stage fright. I know this is for the best."
I hugged him and told him that I respected his choice and that even if he wanted to take this offer, he'd still have 100% of my support. To be honest, I did feel such a big relief, so things could carry on to be the same again. We're back as normal students again and wouldn't have to worry about dealing with a long-distance relationship. But then, I kept thinking about it. The more I thought, the more this made no sense. Nerves or not, he couldn't give up on his dream, could he? If that was me, I would never, ever let that chance slip away. My time is yet to come, but it's Eric's time now. I had to tell him to accept the offer before it's too late. I rang him, and as soon as he answered, I blurted out, "You have to accept the offer, else you'll regret it forever. Don't miss the chance just because of me. I'm fine with it and fully support you. I'm serious." Eric told me to stop overthinking, and that it was too late anyway, as the guy from the label, Will, had a flight back to LA that evening. Oh no! I didn't know what to do. All I knew was I needed to do something, so I immediately called Miss Anderson and giving her a brief sum-up of the situation and asking her for Will's number. She sent it over to me, and I tried calling him, but there was no answer. Okay, at least I knew he hadn't boarded yet. Time was of the essence, so I immediately took my mom's car keys and drove to the airport in search of this guy that I'd never even met. I checked for flights to LA, and thank God there's only one, and it still hadn't departed. I crossed my fingers as I called Will's number again. To my utter relief, he picked up. I rambled out who I was, and he told me we could meet, as he hadn't gone through security yet. Phew! I met Will in front of the departure board. I briefly introduced myself again, then he asked me,
"So, what can I do for you?"
I immediately muttered out, "Please give Eric another chance. He's so talented, and since joining the swing club, he's gotten so much better. I'm positive that with professional training, he will grow even more. You saw something in him, so please give him another shot. He won't disappoint you. I promise." Will was silent for a second. I got impatient, so I added, "He refused your offer the first time because he wasn't thinking straight. He really wants to sing. Singing is his passion." Finally, Will said,
"Okay, all right. Tell him he has 5 days to prepare, and he has to come to LA."
Then he gave me his card and went to the check-in counter. I'd done it! This was crazy! But I was so relieved that I'd succeeded. I doubt I would have been able to live with myself. Phew! It was super late, but this didn't matter. I went straight to Eric's house and told him everything. He was so shocked and touched, and also worried for me for driving such a long way to the airport alone at night to do all this for him. Then he hugged me tight and thanked me. But then I realized that we only had 5 days left together, so we promised each other that we would make those 5 days memorable. In the mornings, I would help Eric practice his singing, and in the evenings, we would go out. Eric asked me to make a list of all the things I would like us to do. I just wanted to be with him and treasure every second we're together, so I said, I just want to ride the giant wheel. Eric looked a bit confused at first. Then he said, Is that all? We could do something else if you wanted. Nah, I shook my head. The giant wheel sounds perfect. Besides, what's better than seeing the town I care about with my extremely cute boyfriend? So, the day before Eric left for the starry heights of LA, we went to the giant wheel, which was in an amusement park on the outskirts of town. We bought some hot dogs and ate them while riding it. When we reached the top, the view up there was just beautiful. We held hands and enjoyed it together. Then Eric asked me why I chose the giant wheel to hang out. I replied, Well, when I was little, my family used to come here, and my parents always told me the story of how they met at this giant wheel. It was in the evening. My mother was already in one of the cabins, and then my father came in too. He didn't know somebody was already in there, but when he noticed it was already taken, it was too late. He couldn't get out. And so, 2 strangers had to sit together in a super small wheel cabin. At first, it was super awkward. But then they started chatting, and from that moment on, their love story began. My mother always told me to bring someone special here. She said this place has something magical, because it could make 2 strange people fall in love. So that's why I brought you here, 'cause you are my special one. Eric looked at me with wide open eyes. I will come back and help you fulfill your dream to become a professional singer. Please, wait for me. Then he kissed me, and it was the most magical moment of my life.
In every high school boy's story, there's always a drop-dead gorgeous girl who makes him do stupid things to try to win the girl over, right? Well, my story is pretty much along those lines, except I was competing with a dog. Yeah, you heard me. Here we go. So my name's Liam, and I'm 17. And Suzanne is the girl I was chasing. I remember the first time I laid eyes on her. It was during a football match at school, and she was one of the cheerleaders. Her bouncy blonde locks and her bright blue eyes drove me crazy, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. In other words, I was smitten, so that's when I started my pickup plan. I paid my friend $10 to find out her address and her favorite food. Stalk her much? Well, this was only the beginning. Once I had her address, I walked up to her house holding a strawberry cheesecake with a love letter attached to it. I peeked over the fence and was about to put the cake on the doorstep, ring the doorbell, and run away. But as I was walking towards the door, a dog appeared and jumped towards me. I freaked out and tried to run away, but instead I face-planted in the ground, and of course, the cake landed right next to me and the letter flew away. What a disaster! Plus, the damn dog kept biting at my pants. Meanwhile, I was screaming like a little kid. And guess who appeared at that moment? None other than Suzanne. Noticing the cake and the letter with her name on it, she smiled down at me, helped me up, and said she had a first aid kit inside. She said her dog Loki just got excited when he saw new people. And then she kept apologizing, but I told her it was okay. And to be honest, I'd fall down like that every day if it meant I got to be helped up by Suzanne. After that, we started texting, although most of the time she was sending me photos of Loki. Finally, after a few months of texts, I plucked up the courage to ask her out on a proper date, and it was amazing. After dropping her off at her front door, I decided that was the moment to confess my feelings and ask her to be my girlfriend. I was shaking so much that I almost forgot to breathe. But luckily, she told me she liked me too. Then suddenly she grabbed me and planted a big kiss on my cheek. And so I held her and decided to go in for a proper kiss on the lips. But out of nowhere, Loki appeared and leapt on me and I fell flat on my face. Not again! And this time I was furious. I sat up and I was about to go crazy. But then I noticed Suzanne was laughing. Loki seems to like you, she joked. He's driving me insane, but seeing how happy she was made my anger all gone. I was about to stand up and go in for a kiss again, but Loki kept pulling Suzanne inside. She had no choice but to follow him. So I was left there all alone. Man, what was that dog's problem? After that night, I refused to go to Suzanne's house when we met up. I even told her I thought her dog hated me, and she thought that was hilarious. She then said he was just protective, and then she shared the story of why they adopted him. So when I was 8, my best friend lived next door. His name was Andrew, and Loki was his pet. The three of us were so close, but one day Andrew's parents got divorced, and Andrew moved to Canada with his dad. So he left Loki with me. It's been 9 years since we saw each other. A thought crossed my mind. Maybe Loki hated me because he thought Suzanne was Andrew's girlfriend. No way. He was just a dog, right? And the trouble was never ending. Prom night arrived, and Suzanne was so excited. I made sure I got to her house early and waited her for a while she did her hair and stuff. I told her I'd wait outside, but she insisted I come in. I was dreading seeing Loki, but of course there he was, waiting for me by the couch with a smirk on his face. I mean, come on, since when do dogs smirk? I sat there nervously watching him, but after Suzanne had gone back upstairs, he came over to me with a photo in his mouth. It was Suzanne sitting next to a boy, and Loki was there too. Obviously, it was Andrew in the photo, and they looked so happy together. Why was Loki showing me this? I looked Loki straight in the eyes and said, "Listen up, Loki. Andrew and Suzanne aren't together. Suzanne is my girlfriend, so just leave us alone, okay?" Loki just kept staring at me, then he left. It was clear I'd lost the plot. There I was threatening a dog. After a while, Suzanne came downstairs, and we were about to leave. But I couldn't find my shoes anywhere. After 30 minutes of looking, we still couldn't find them, and by then Suzanne was pretty upset with me. She ran upstairs and locked herself in her room. I didn't know what to do, so I got up to leave barefoot. When I got outside, I noticed Loki smirking again, but I wasn't in the mood to care about him now. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and it was Loki with my shoes in his mouth. He dropped them at my feet and then ran off. I couldn't believe it. That stupid dog stole my shoes and ruined our night. I spent the next week texting Suzanne trying to apologize, and eventually she forgave me. But I still hate Loki so much. He was seriously making my life a living nightmare. During the summer, Suzanne was going to Chicago with her parents to visit her aunt, so she asked me to look after Loki for 2 weeks. What? You've got to be kidding me. I had no choice but to agree. If I said no, I'd risk losing Suzanne. So when I went to pick him up, I saw him standing there smirking at me again. It looked like he was saying, "Oh, hey, Liam, are you ready for 2 weeks of hell with me?" The worst part was all the instructions Suzanne had for me about how to take care of her precious Loki. Feed him with organic dog food 3 times a day in his special bowl. Then make sure he gets 2 walks a day, no less than 5 miles each time. And every night at 6 p.m. he needs his bath with his doggy bubble bath. He likes to be massaged behind the ears. And please read him a bedtime story to ensure he has sweet dreams. This had to be some kind of joke. How would I remember all of that? And as expected from day one, it was a total disaster. It was summer vacation. So I wasn't going to bed early. In fact, I was playing video games with my friends all night. So I never managed to wake up at 6 a.m. to feed him. And surely he wouldn't die if he skipped a meal, right? But well, he didn't give me much choice. He leapt onto my bed at 6:30 a.m., licking my face and demanding food. Another time I was going to my friend's house, so obviously I couldn't take him with me. So before leaving, I said, "Hey, Loki, be a good boy, I'll be back soon." Then I smirked and locked the door. Loki started barking, so I knew he was angry. Well, it served him right. However, when I got home that night, I discovered he'd peed all over my clothes and messed up my entire room. He'd clearly done this to get revenge, and I was fuming. I started yelling at him as I was cleaning up the mess. And that's when I realized that I'd have to take him everywhere with me. Even though he was super annoying, I started to understand why Suzanne loved him. He was smart, affectionate, and I guess it's kind of nice to have company. When I was watching movies alone, he would come over and lay in my lap. When I played video games, I could ask him to bring me snacks. And once I went to the toilet and realized the loo roll was finished, and I shouted, "Loki, can you please get me some loo roll?" And he actually brought me one. A few days later, we were out walking in the park, and I saw some boys playing basketball. I was desperate to join them, so I told Loki to wait for me. But after the match, he was nowhere to be seen. I freaked out and frantically searched the whole park, but it was hopeless. Suzanne would never forgive me if I lost her precious Loki. So the next day I put up some flyers hoping someone had found him. Well, luckily for me, someone called me and said they had found him. I immediately went to get him and waited outside the address they'd given me, which was in a kind of dodgy part of town. While I was waiting, 2 men dressed in black clothes approached me. They looked suspicious, so I tried to step out of the way, but one of them grabbed my arm and said, "Give us your money, otherwise you might get hurt." I started struggling and trying to get away. But this made them even angrier. I freaked out when suddenly I heard a familiar barking. Loki! He was rushing towards us and started biting at the robbers' clothes, pulling them away from me. I was so relieved, and after a while, the robbers ran off, scared half to death. I gave Loki the biggest hug, and he was wagging his tail in delight. Then a woman with a dog came towards us. Turns out she was the person who had called me. She'd been walking her dog Penny in the park when Loki had started following them and wouldn't leave Penny alone. He'd been smitten with her, so Penny's owner didn't know what to do and took Loki home. Eventually, she saw the posters, and that's when she'd contacted me. So Loki was as bad as me, chasing a pretty girl. How funny. When we got home, I thanked Loki again for saving me. Then I said, "You know Andrew doesn't live here anymore, right? He's in Canada, which is far away. But listen, I love Suzanne so much, and I know you do too. So we'll take care of her together, okay?" He kept staring at me like he was waiting for something more. So then I said, "Oh, right. Yeah. If you agree, I promise I'll take you to Penny's house to visit her. Deal?" I reached out my hand to shake his, and he legit put his paw in my hand. Okay, done deal. A few days later, Suzanne got back and picked up Loki. And when I told Suzanne everything that had happened, she burst out laughing. After that, our relationship got even better, and we started hanging out with Loki more. Although whenever I wanted to kiss her, I always said to Loki, "Hey bro, look away." And he never once tried to interfere again. Loki and I are on good terms now, as he's in love with Penny as I am with Suzanne. It's true what they say, boys go wild for pretty girls.
Hi, my name is Mia, and I lived the first 14 years of my life trapped in a lie. I never left the house, and by that, I mean never. I grew up believing that I was allergic to the sun, and if I stayed out in it too long, I'd turn to dust. Dumb, I know, but I was just a kid, and I had no reason not to believe what my mom told me. On the rare occasions, I went out into the backyard, and my skin turned all blotchy and puffy. Looking back on it now, it's clear Mom had given me something to bring my skin out in a rash, but at the time, I honestly believed the sun was out to get me. I remember peering behind the curtain and watching the kids play out in the street. They looked like they were having so much fun, and I felt so sad that I couldn't join them. Mom charged into my room, quickly closed the curtain, and then she grabbed my shoulders and shouted at me, "Mia, never do that again. The sun can come in through the curtains and turn you to a crisp. Is that what you want?" I remember sobbing as I shook my head. I never did peer out at the other kids again after that. I could still hear them playing, so I would close my eyes and imagine that I was out there with them, playing chase and learning how to ride a bike. I so wanted that to be my reality. The problem was I didn't have that life. Instead, I was stuck inside with no friends. I'd never even touched the grass before. Mom homeschooled me. She took this really seriously and got really mad when I didn't understand something. One time, I gave the wrong answer to a math equation, so she screamed at me, "You're such an idiot! I've had enough of you!" Then she locked me in my room without dinner. Crazy, huh? But back then, I was so scared that from then, I didn't dare to ask her anything. It's always just Mom and me, and no one else in my house. She said my dad had died when I was a baby. Again, I had no reason not to believe her. I never had a phone to talk to anyone, and who did I have to talk to? Still, I remember being fascinated by this strange object she often pressed to her ear. Whenever she was on the phone, I believed she was talking to herself. Mom would lock me in the house while she went out. Then when she returned, she'd just throw me something to eat. A sandwich, a packet of potato chips, and sometimes she changed the meal to bread. She never really cooked. I'm not even sure if she knew how to. My house was a simple old house. There's not many things in it. No TV, no sofa, a basic kitchen. I mean, it looks like an abandoned house, but I thought it was normal because I'd not seen any other houses. My room was small, cold, and dark. I only had a hard mattress and some itchy old pillows. I didn't even have a bed cover. I used to shiver myself to sleep each night and dream of being out there playing with the other kids. Then, things got worse when I turned 10. Mom stormed into my room, gave me some food and a pile of books, and told me that I had to stay in my room from now on, so she knew I was safe. I put up with 4 years of this. It was horrible. She chucked my meals at me and gave me new books once a week. I felt so hungry and lonely all the time. Then one day, when evening arrived and she still hadn't fed me, my hunger pains got the better of me. So I tried the door, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. So I snuck downstairs. That's when I saw Mom pacing the room, her phone in hand. She said, "Yes, I know, Toby. Well, she's finally of age, so when are you coming to get her?" Then she said, "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will be counting the money." I didn't know what was going on, but I knew something wasn't right. Then I heard Mum say, "Well, I suppose I better go and feed her then." I quickly darted upstairs and lay on my mattress. Mum appeared and passed me a sandwich and some water. She sat down next to me, which was odd, as she hardly ever did this. And she smiled at me as she said, "We need to get you cleaned up, and I've bought you a new dress to wear." "Why, Mum?" I asked her. Her smile faded into a scowl, and she kicked my mattress. "Why do you always have to be so insolent?" I didn't want to upset her further, so I didn't ask her anything else. Then the next day, Mom made me put the new dress on and let me out of my room. Then there was a knock at the door, and Mom brought this strange man in. I'd never interacted with anyone other than Mom before, so I just sat there, feeling afraid. He was around my mom's age and tall, really tall, and he had unkind eyes. He passed my mom an envelope, and she opened it and took out a lot of bits of paper. I know now that this was money, but back then, I didn't fully understand what it was. Mom counted it out, then nodded at him and said, "She's all yours."
Right. You're coming with me, sweetie.
He walked towards me. What? I stared at him open-mouthed.
Mia, you're going to live with this man now.
Mom said it like it was no big deal.
That's what happens when you turn 14. You have to leave.
But Mom, why? I don't know him. I won't go. Then she slapped me and shouted out loud, "Go with him. I'm done with you." That's when I realized that I couldn't live with this woman anymore. I ran out of the front door. Surely turning to dust was better than living with any of them. Only, as the sun touched my skin, it didn't burn. That's when I knew Mom had been lying to me all this time. So I started running without knowing where I was going. I could hear Mom and that Toby guy chasing and shouting after me, but I just kept on running. Every little sound freaked me out, as I didn't understand this world and the people in it. The next thing I remember is some woman shaking me and saying, "Sweetie, are you okay?" I was so afraid at first and curled up into a ball, but then she told me she wasn't going to hurt me, she just wanted to help me. She had kind eyes, not like Mom or that man. So I told her what had happened. She looked completely shocked, but she rang the police. So it turns out that when I was a baby, I was stolen. My mom isn't really my mom at all. She was some messed up woman who took me out of my pushchair and made some awful deal with that Toby man that he could buy me off her when I was 14. She didn't know my real parents. She just saw a chance to grab me, and she took it. It's horrible to think that she robbed me of a normal life, but I try not to dwell on this thought too much. I can't change the past. Then eventually, something amazing happened. My real parents were found. It was so emotional seeing them for the first time. They hugged me and we all just cried. They told me how they'd never stopped looking for me. And guess what? I found out I have a little sister called Izzy. I love hanging out with her and watching her play. She's the best. It's been hard. There's so much I've had to learn, such as how to interact with people, and even how to eat with a knife and fork. My real parents have been so kind and patient with me. Now, at the age of 19, I have some sort of normal life. I still find many things confusing, and I struggle being around large crowds. I had to get used to sleeping on a bed, and I find computers the most confusing thing ever. But I managed to function in the big, wide world. As for my fake mom and Toby, well, they were both sentenced for their involvement in my kidnap and are now in jail for a very long time. I have a chance at leading a normal life in the normal world, and even though what happened to me was horrible, I'm not going to let those cruel people ruin my life. I finally have a loving family, and I know that with their care and support, I can get through anything.
I opened the drawer and, aha, there it was. I'd been looking for this magazine for ages. But as I closed the drawer, I noticed something else. A photo hiding under the magazine. There was a woman and 2 kids in the photo. A boy and a girl. I was so confused. Who were they? I turned it over and there was a message on the back that said, "This is my new number. Call me more often. I miss you so much." Suddenly my mom came in and I was about to ask her about the photo, but she got mad and started screaming at me to get out of the room. "Never, ever come into our room again. Do you hear me, Aaron? We have private stuff in here. You know the rules." I was just looking for the magazine, I said, and quickly tucked the photo inside before running out of her room. Actually, I knew I wasn't meant to go in my parents' room, but I was doing a school essay on sustainability, and I'd seen an article in my mom's magazine about it a few days back. So I'd searched the whole house to try and find it. Eventually, I knew the only place it could be was their room, so I snuck in. Usually their door was locked, so I was in luck. Ever since I was a kid, I had been forbidden to go in there, but I had no idea why. Back in my room, I couldn't stop staring at the photo. Were these my relatives or something? Long-lost cousins? The boy in the pic looked totally like my dad. Oh no. Reading the note behind it again, suddenly I thought this could be another family of my dad. Do you know what I meant? Yes. What if my dad had a secret family? Maybe he'd cheated on my mom and had this whole other secret life. My inner detective was going crazy. There was nothing else for it. I had to get to the bottom of this and find out the truth. I searched online for the phone number and couldn't believe it when a girl the same age as me popped up. I started scrolling through all her photos and suddenly saw one of a young guy holding a baby, and the caption said, "Miss the old days of being daddy's little girl." This was insane! I was certain the young guy in the photo was my dad, and I needed to talk to the girl ASAP. I messaged her and told her we were related. I even sent some photos of me taken with my dad to prove it. I was shaking when I saw her reply pop up. "My dad never mentioned you, not even once." That hurt me so much. I couldn't believe this girl was actually my dad's daughter too. Now, how am I supposed to break this news to Mom? She'd freak out. I couldn't bear the thought of seeing this crush her. So I decided to go clear things up myself first. A few days later, my dad was going on a business trip to Boston. Again. He was always going to Boston. I'd always believed he was just super busy at work, but now I knew the truth as my dad's secret daughter had confirmed she was also from Boston. I mean, of course she was. So I told my mom I was going to spend the weekend at my friend's house. And the moment my dad left, I jumped in a cab that I'd called and asked the driver to follow him. When we got to Boston, I saw my dad stop outside of a house and then glance around as if he thought he was about to get caught. Then he got out of his car and rang the doorbell. A woman came to open and immediately they started kissing. Then a young girl appeared and, yep, it was exactly the people in the photo. I was shaking so much, I actually dropped the money for the cab. It felt like my dad had punched me in the chest. I was so upset. He had this whole other family that Mom and I had no clue about. I couldn't stand it anymore. Mom didn't deserve this. I walked towards the house and was so focused on what I was planning to say to my dad, I didn't even notice a van pulling up right next to me. Suddenly, everything went black, and I realized I had been blindfolded. A huge hand was covering my mouth so I couldn't even scream. I felt tape being put across my lips, sealing them shut. Then someone yanked me backwards and shoved me into some kind of car. Oh my God, was I being kidnapped? Why? Had my dad seen me and now he was trying to cover his tracks? This was like something out of a movie. They even tied me up. After what felt like 1 billion hours, We finally stopped, and I was dragged out of the car into a cold, dark building. Someone took my blindfold off, but it was so dark inside I couldn't really see anything except a single light bulb above my head. The tape across my mouth was pulled off, and I was untied. I wanted to run out of there as fast as possible, but I was terrified. 2 men dressed in black were standing in the room, and one of them glared at me and said, "They think they can hide you forever?" "Who are you?" I shouted. "Where am I? If it's money you want, call my dad. Please, just let me go," I said, in what must have been the shakiest voice ever. "Don't worry, we're not going to hurt you. We don't even need money. It's your parents we want. In 3 weeks, they'll be out of prison, and then they'll need to come here to get you back. Then we can really punish you for knowing too many secrets about us." I had no idea what they were talking about. Prison? My parents aren't in prison. You've got the wrong person. One of the men just laughed and said, "It's been 12 years, and yet you still don't know about it." Then he walked off laughing his head off. What? What were they talking about? None of this made any sense. My dad was a businessman, and my mom was a housewife. This was all some big mix-up. It had to be. They'd locked me in that dark room. I tried to scream and bang on the door, but no one heard me. Or if they did, they didn't care. The next few days were some of the worst of my life. I didn't think I'd survive. Twice a day, someone slipped food under the door, and I spent most of the time trying to think of ways to escape. There was no window, but there was a small air vent, and if I could just open it, I thought I might be able to crawl through and get the heck out of this disgusting, shabby place. Lucky for me, they'd given me a fork to eat with, and slowly I'd been using it to loosen the screws on the grid of the vent. Finally, on the 3rd night, I waited until everything was dead quiet, and I got into the vent. I crawled through and managed to get out. I was at the back of some old abandoned warehouse, and as I stood up to stretch my legs, someone covered my mouth from behind. Oh no! How had I got caught so quickly? But then I heard a voice. "Shh, are you okay?" I almost screamed. It was my mom. "How did you find me?" I asked. But she just grabbed my hand and said, "Let's get out of here. Then I'll explain." We climbed through a small gap in the fence, and then I saw a black car by the road. I started to panic again, but my mom told me it was for us. And then as we climbed in, she said to the driver, "I got her, James. Let's go." It was only then that I finally took a look at my mom and realized what she was wearing. She was in all black and looked like a spy or something. Mom, what's going on?" My mom bit her lip and said she couldn't hide it from me anymore. What she told me next was unbelievable. Turns out my parents weren't even my real parents. My biological mom and dad used to be members of this mob, but 12 years ago they'd been given an impossible task and they refused to do it, so their boss said he'd harm me as their punishment. My parents had no choice but to turn themselves in and ask the police for protection for me. In return, they gave the police some confidential info about the mob. Whoa, I was shocked. "So, you're not my mom? My real parents are in prison?" I felt like my head was spinning. How could my life get so crazy? Yep, they're in prison. Back then, the police stormed into the mob's headquarters, but the boss had managed to escape. That's why we put you in the protection program, because we knew he'd come search for you. This was too much. I didn't want such a dramatic life. Then I suddenly remembered there was more drama. "Mom, I found out Dad was cheating on you, so I followed him here to Boston. Did you follow him too? I mean, how did you find me?" This was so weird. My mom didn't look sad at all. She said, "Actually, he wasn't cheating. That woman and those kids are his family. You see, at the time, he and I were the only 2 people qualified enough to adopt you. So he actually left his family to fake our family life to protect you. It was all part of the protection program. But he missed his family so much. That's why he went back to see them most weekends. I'm so sorry, Aaron. We didn't expect it to turn out like this. When you didn't come home on Sunday, I used the GPS we set on your phone, and that's how I found you." Okay, my head was spinning even more. Not only were they not my real parents, they weren't even a real couple. This was absolute insanity, and all to protect me? Wow. And as it turns out, it worked out pretty well, because by tracking me, they found the new boss's hideout, and now the police had arrived and he was finally being arrested. As for me and my family, we had to pretend to be a real family, for now. And actually, it wasn't that hard because I loved them so much, and they'd sacrificed the past 12 years of their life to protect me. I'd be eternally grateful to them, and my biological parents would be out of prison soon, and then I'd be reunited with them. I don't remember anything about them, but they also sacrificed their lives to protect me, so they must be pretty amazing, right?
Hey, it's Haley again. So, as amazing as being famous is, it also comes with some problems. The first one being Eric. Having a famous ex around is awkward. Secondly, it's all the unknowns that being in the public eye brought with it. For instance, I was currently backstage at my first mini show, terrified, because I was pretty sure someone just took a picture of me in an unzipped dress. I worriedly looked at Dean. Did you see who that was? Why would someone take those kind of pictures? Oh no, what if they sell them to the press? Dean gave me a reassuring look and said,
Don't worry. I promise I'll definitely find out who did it. Now, please relax, as your performance is in any minute, and you wouldn't want to let this affect it, right?
Then I watched him leave. What he said made sense. This was an important show for me and Phil, so I couldn't mess things up. When I was on the stage, I pushed all my worries to the side and concentrated on what I did best, singing my heart out. Afterward, we hung around and had a little fan meeting. It was crazy being around people that knew my name and wanted selfies with me. Phil was getting plenty of attention too. It seemed he was a hit with the fangirls. I heard them saying how handsome they thought he was, and so cool. Phil may have kept a straight face, but I knew he liked it, really. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? Then, someone even shouted that Phil and I made a beautiful couple. Phil almost burst out laughing, and I just smiled shyly. Then one girl asked me if I had any plans besides singing. I didn't know how to answer, as I'd never thought about doing anything besides singing before.
You should be a vlogger, one girl suggested. Or you could be in movies,
another said. Oh, that didn't sound too bad. Thinking about it, trying something new alongside my singing might help promote our music and increase my popularity. It was definitely something to consider, thanks to my awesome fans. Then, as luck would have it, I found out that a famous director was holding auditions for a supporting role in his project. It was a perfect chance for beginners like me to learn from these veteran actors. Besides, it wouldn't take much time, so I could still have time for music. So I immediately signed up to participate. The day of the casting arrived, and I was excited, but also really worried. The last time I'd attended an audition was during my freshman year of swing club. Wow, time sure does fly. I was sitting in the waiting room when I saw a familiar face sitting in the corner. It was Eric. He must have been trying out for a part too. Suddenly, our eyes met, but I immediately avoided his gaze. My heart began to skip a beat, and it wasn't due to nerves. It was down to seeing him. Even after all this time, he still had that effect on me. Sigh. Before I could decide whether I should go and say hi to him or not, a very hot guy walked over to me. I recognized him from a few hit movies and knew he was a big deal. He smiled at me and said,
Are you Haley? As in, the singer.
I nodded back, awestruck that this super famous guy knew who I was. He sat down next to me and asked me if I was worried about my audition. I told him I was a bit. So he started telling me about some of his previous auditions and experiences. At first, it was great hearing this stuff from a pro, but then he asked me if I wanted to hang out with him on the weekend. I started to feel a bit uncomfortable because of his flirty behaviors, but I didn't know how to politely say no. I tried to avoid his eyes while thinking of an excuse, and suddenly, I thought of Eric, so I glanced over in his direction, but he'd gone. Meanwhile, that actor guy started to move closer to me, wrapped his arm around my shoulder, and stroked my hair. I kind of started to panic. Then suddenly, I felt someone grabbing my hand and pulling me away. Turns out, it was Eric. What was he doing? Eric pulled me to the balcony at the end of the hallway. I glared at him. What was that for? I'm not yours to drag to places whenever you want. He replied, I don't like you chatting with other guys, especially not slimeballs like him. I felt my heart beating faster, but I tried to keep my cool as I replied, You have no say in who I can and can't talk to. We're not even friends. Eric looked at me with sad eyes. I'm so sorry, Haley. I don't want it to be like this. Please forgive me. I miss you. This was so typical of Eric, winding me up before my audition. So I growled out, Sorry is no use to me. You have no idea how much you hurt me. Unexpectedly, he replied, I will break up with Clara. Well, no. The truth is, there was nothing between me and Clara in the first place. Ha! That sounds familiar. You must have said the same thing to Clara to be with her while you were still dating me, right? I said, then started to walk off. He replied with a low voice. Everything was forced by the company. I stopped on the spot and looked at him, then angrily said, Oh, you think I'll trust you again? I'm no longer the innocent girl who believes everything you say. After a moment of silence, he sighed, then told me everything. When he rose to fame and was working with Clara, she was always openly showing affection for him, even though Eric has told her to stop many times, and once she even confessed her feelings towards him. He rejected her immediately, as he was with me and didn't like her in that way. I rolled my eyes and said, Yeah, right. If you really rejected her feelings right away, then things wouldn't be this way. Eric cut off my words. Please just listen to me first. Then he continued. Clara didn't take the rejection well, so she posted our photo on Instagram and spread rumors with the press that we were dating. At the time, I was furious and wanted to correct the press, but Will stopped me. He even said that our dating rumors were getting a very good response from our fans, so he told me to go along with it. I looked straight at him and said, Okay, so there's nothing between the two of you, but you still chose to listen to the company and leave me without any explanation, right? He said, I'm so sorry, but they promised me that it'd only be until the duet with Clara was released. Besides, they even offered to help you become famous once it's done. That's why I endured it all. I did it for you. Whoa. This whole thing was unbelievable. I didn't expect that company to be that bad, but thank God that it turned out there was really nothing between Eric and Clara, just as I suspected. So I said, You didn't have to do that. I can stand up on my own. Then Eric smiled at me and held my hand. Yep, I shouldn't worry so much, since my girl here is so talented. Haley, I messed up, but I did it with good intentions. Can you forgive me? My feelings were really chaotic, surprised, happy, and guilty at the same time. As confusing as it all was, I knew that I still loved Eric. So with teary eyes, I nodded. Then he pulled me into his arms. Suddenly, I remembered one thing. I asked him, what about the bouquets? You sent me those purple peonies, right? He shyly nodded. Yes, they were from me, so you'd know I was thinking about you. I squeezed him tight and whispered a thank you. I couldn't believe all this, as if I just got a huge weight off my shoulders now that everything has been resolved. After that, I did my audition. I'm not sure how well it went, as my mind was elsewhere. Afterward, Eric drove me to a secluded part of the beach, and we held hands and went for a walk on the sand. I felt so happy to see the old Eric again, the real him, the one I'd fallen in love with. So, you see, Eric and I got back together. But of course, we kept it a secret from the public. Only our close friends knew about it. I told Anna and Kurt over video call, and Anna cheered, but Kurt was a bit more skeptical and told me to be careful, as once a snake, always a snake. But I didn't think much about it, as me and Eric were in our own euphoria. Everything seemed to be going well, too well. And then something terrible happened. One day, I was having a slump while trying to compose my first song at home, so I surfed the internet for a bit, hoping to find some inspiration. Then suddenly, I saw my name trending on Twitter, so I quickly clicked on one article. The article said that I was a rude and disrespectful girl. What? They even confirmed that the news was revealed by a veteran actor in the showbiz world, but no name was given. Could it have been that actor guy from the audition? Surely, the fact that Eric suddenly pulled me away had irritated him, but he turned out to be not much of a decent guy either. And the problem is that in Hollywood, rumors have a way of sticking. As a result, a few of my advertising contracts were canceled, and so were some of our gigs. One teen magazine even called the office to tell us that they wouldn't publish my interview anymore, as I was a bad influence on their young readers. It was so embarrassing. I was struggling, but our company too had a hard time dealing with this scandal. I felt guilty, as it could affect the entire company's image, but both Dean and Phil reassured me that it would pass, and that malicious rumors came with the fame. I tried to stay strong and believe it would blow over, but then my anti-fan base grew. There were forums and hate clubs all about me. You know, even if you read 1,000 compliments, that one negative comment is the only thing that's left on your mind. I tried not to read them, but they were everywhere, saying horrible stuff about my singing, my outfits, and the way I look. One afternoon, I was lying in bed thinking, when suddenly I heard the doorbell. I feared that it was one of the anti-fans who'd come to throw paint on me or something. I peeked through the peephole and saw Eric standing there with a big hat and sunglasses. OMG! What was he doing here? I quickly opened the door and nervously looked around, then hissed at him. Eric, what are you doing here? Someone might spot you. He replied, Haley, you're the most important person in my life. I'd trade it all for you. His kind words made me so happy. That day, Eric cooked me a delicious meal. Then he taught me how to deal with haters and ignore the comments. I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. But unfortunately, everything didn't stop there.
Hi guys, I'm Mia, a princess from, of course, not the kingdom of far, far away, but another relatively small country in Europe, which must not be named. That was a Harry Potter reference, in case you didn't notice. Anyway, before I tell you my amazing story, like and subscribe, please? Nah, that's an order.
Your Royal Highness, please come down here.
In your dreams! Guys, just admit it. You've also dreamed of being able to fly far away with lots of balloons. At least once, right? I'm living your dream right now. But just as I was enjoying the fresh air, actually, the air was kinda thin up here. Anyway, out of nowhere, a flock of birds from the opposite direction flew straight into the balloons. 1, then 2, then 3 popped!
Catch the princess!
No, 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 no! I cannot die like this! Ah! So, at my funeral... Just kidding! Did you seriously think I died? I didn't. But instead, I was immediately taken to the palace in front of the king and Mom, who wasn't very happy with what I just did.
How could you do something reckless like that? Did you forget who you are? Your Majesty, please reprimand her properly so she would not repeat this sort of behavior. That's right. How could you be so careless? Next time, prepare more balloons, or at least let me join you. Your Majesty!
You all know who sides with who now. Growing up, Dad would let me join him in his hunting adventures, but we actually never hunted anything. Instead, we would explore the beautiful sceneries together and learn interesting survival tricks. Those hunting trips called the deepest passion for adventures inside me. But of course, Mom only wanted to keep me inside the palace. It's too dangerous. Mia, remember who you are. Or, what's your manners? But I couldn't care less about her because Dad always got my back. But everything changed when I was 15. Dad suddenly had a stroke, then fell into a coma. Mom ascended the throne, and my life officially became hell on earth.
I'm not even blowing it up. I was not allowed to laugh out loud, eat too much, or even leave the palace anymore. She was so paranoid that she even insisted I have a bodyguard. One day, I was reading a book when the sleepy monster came to visit me. So I asked my bodyguard to play my favorite game with me. Let's take turns naming words starting with the letter B. Whoever loses will have to do a handstand walk around the palace. I'll go first. Bite. After a few rounds back and forth, we started running out of words starting with B.
I have a word, but I can't say it.
Oh, come on. Say it or I'll have you fired.
But
Right then, Mom came in out of nowhere and immediately fired him just because of using improper language.
what choice do I have, really?
I tried to negotiate with Mom to let it slide, but she was impossible. So I had another bodyguard, who just moved here from the North Pole. Negotiation wasn't even in his dictionary. One time, I wanted to try this Peter Parker battery experiment, but knowing my bodyguard would never allow it, I asked him to go buy me a chocolate shake. So here I am, ready to become the next Spider-Man. Warning, do not try this at home. Yeah, I'm talking to you all. So anyway, the experiment was quite successful, but my new bodyguard was also fired shortly after. He didn't even know I was doing this. It was my fault this time, Mom. Mom! Then, after a short while of many other recruitments and reconsiderations, the Queen finally found another bodyguard who, according to her, had given up her noble position in the royal family to train in the army. You will learn a lot from her, yada yada yada. Does her name happen to be Mulan too? But the moment I met my new bodyguard, I thought she was Miss Universe in disguise. Skin as white as snow, lips red as the rose, and hair black as ebony. She looked as fragile as Snow White. How was she meant to protect me? I guess I have to test her then. Come at me already. Before I could process, she rushed towards me faster than the speed of light, and I instantly found myself locked in.
Your Royal Highness, I'm Grace. I'll be your bodyguard from now on.
Got it. Now could you release me? I was finally freed from her grip. So, Lady Grace, is it true you gave up your title to train in the army?
That is true, Your Royal Highness.
Just call me Mia. Anyway, why did you do that?
I just wanted to follow my martial arts dreams without any restrictions.
Grace and I talked some more, and I found out she was actually very pleasant to be with. Over time, Grace and I became closer. She was excellent at her job, protecting me from any trouble I caused for myself. But whenever she could, she would also try to bring me along with her on palace duties. She knew how much I loved to be outside the palace. Everything was better with Grace, until one day after I turned 17. The Queen summoned me in to announce a life-altering news.
According to the Royal Covenant, as soon as a princess turns 17, her engagement ceremony is to be held.
What? Engagement? There's no way I'll get married at the age of 17 or 18. And should I at least know the name of the unlucky guy? Right then, a guy stepped in.
Nice meeting you again, princess.
Liam, the Duke from a neighboring country? I met him before through some royal parties. Oh gosh, he smelled like he just soaked himself in 1001 bottles of Dior Sauvage. I mean, look at the way he stroked his hair or applied chapstick. My stomach was literally on strike seeing all of this. Ugh! No, I will not marry anyone. If you guys insist, I'll go on a hunger strike. Only, I didn't know hunger strikes require a great deal of mental strength, which I don't have. After skipping lunch, I almost passed out already. Luckily, Grace sneaked in some food for me. Thank you, thank you. There's no way I'm gonna skip my 2 p.m. chocolate shake either.
I understand what you mean, Your Highness.
It's all because of that stupid Liam guy. Did you see how he acted? He looked like a donkey.
Actually, I used to attend some royal classes with the Duke before I gave up royalty.
Oh yeah? I bet he failed all the classes. There was no grace in that man.
No, he was actually very smart, and he cares a lot about others. You know, a lot of girls in the classes were dying to get with him. So maybe you should just give him some time, Your Highness.
All right, as long as you get me my chocolate shake. It seemed like the hunger strike really worked, since the next day the Queen came into my room looking all worried.
Mia, have you seriously not been eating?
Yes, Mom. I can't get married. Right then, Marcus, Mom's private secretary, came in, interrupting my marvelous acting.
Your Majesty, please consider joining the charity program in the Southern Village.
I said I will not go! But I'm afraid since the king became unconscious, the royal reputation hasn't been as good as it used to be. Having a member of the royal family there would help.
Ooh, a charity program in the Southern Village? This screams my ticket to freedom. If I go, I could at least delay the stupid marriage. Plus, I'll get to explore the village. Your Majesty, perhaps you could allow me to join the charity program on behalf of the royal family?
That is too risky. Actually, having the princess there would also help promote her image as well, given that she is the next in line to the throne. But,
Mom, this is the
only way to lift my gloomy dying spirits.
All right.
Thank you, Mom. This is what a high IQ will get you in life. It seemed like the engagement ceremony with Liam would have to wait, because I, the princess, am setting off to save the world. But man proposes, God disposes. When I arrived there, everything was really programmed. Everyone was dressed up, holding flower bouquets, and standing on both sides of the road welcoming me. As soon as they saw me, they all started applauding. I haven't even done anything praiseworthy. Oh wait, should I smile or should I grin? How many teeth should be revealed? Oops, I forgot to check myself in the mirror this morning. Is there any lipstick or veggie stuck on my teeth from breakfast? Suddenly, I noticed a boy with a bouquet of deep red roses looking at me curiously. Are those for me? Thank you very much. No? I guess they're for your mom then. I patted him on the head, stopped to all these behind-the-scenes bloopers. As I continued walking, I saw a well-groomed gentleman wearing a hat in front of me. Did the locals here even prepare a moonwalk performance to welcome me? That's so thoughtful. But as I was about to approach, he reached out to stop me and lifted his hat, revealing a cheesy smile. Wait a second. I think I'd seen that smile somewhere else before.
Bonjour, principessa. Here we meet again.
Liam? Why are you here?
I don't know if you've heard it before, but there's a Chinese proverb that says, if it be fated, even 1,000 miles cannot keep us apart.
Ugh, I've come all the way here and still can't seem to escape this guy. I'm sure Mom was behind this. So you must also know the other saying in Chinese. But if it not be fated, we shall not encounter each other, even if we are face to face. Even after I literally spelled out, I do not wish to see your face like that, he still didn't bat an eye and continued acting cheesy. He even messed around with Grace too, making her all embarrassed. I had to save her out of there. Just ignore him. I thought upon coming here, I would be free to wander around to explore the surroundings and meet up with new people, but
without the Queen's approval, your Highness is not allowed to go out.
Then for food, we were served with all different kinds of exquisite cuisines. So, are we doing charity or on a vacation?
Yeah, right. How can the two of us finish all this food by ourselves? You should join us too.
That's right. Everyone come join us. We can't, Your Highness. Okay, either you all sit down or I'll have you fired. That's the power of being a princess. So, turned out life here was no different from back at the palace. I had to participate in loads of charity duties that didn't have anything to do with charity at all. Worse still, I couldn't even enjoy my snooze privilege anymore. Rise and shine, princess. Today's schedule begins with breakfast at 7 a.m., accompanied by the Duke, followed by an interview with reporters at 8 a.m. At 10:30, Your Highness and the Duke will deliver gifts to residents of the lodge and take photos with the President and First Lady of France. Then at 11:30, all right, at least let me go squeeze the cheese first.
No, princess, we don't have any cheese for today's breakfast. If I'm not mistaken, the breakfast menu includes...
No, Grace, I gotta go bake a loaf, plant some corn, I need to go to the bathroom ASAP. Well, breakfast was ruined because of Liam. If it wasn't for Grace, I would have jumped over and torn him apart already. But now I still have to endure this terrible human being's company for the interview.
Let's take a beautiful photo of the princess and the Duke together.
I angrily looked into the camera while Liam grinned stupidly. Ugh, you guys just want nice pictures of me and Liam? I immediately posed in 101 different positions. Everyone's face went from surprised to confused to speechless.
Princess?
My short-lived spotlight was suddenly taken when Liam also started crawling on the ground and posing like a Zara model.
Hey, what are you waiting for? Take as many photos as you want.
Did he really go that far? After a whole day of taking photos and interviews, and being pretty and breathing, I was exhausted. But I still need to attend this dinner with the President and the First Lady of France. I tried to follow along with the conversation, but soon, all the laughter and chatter around me slowly faded away. Then I suddenly saw myself turning into a rabbit, running free around the carrot field, hanging out with my turtle friend. As I turned around to look for him, a farmer suddenly appeared and lifted me up. Ah! Turned out the farmer was Grace. Oh? Did I say something funny? Ahem. Right when I was staring daggers at Liam, he suddenly turned serious.
Please excuse me. I suffer from a condition called laugh-a-lot from a young age.
What is laugh-a-lot? How come I have never heard of it?
Oh, only about 0.01% of the population suffers from this, so it's not common. People with laugh-a-lot syndrome have no control over their mouth and jaw muscles, or when to laugh.
Oh, I understand. I'm so sorry about that. You're still so young. I tried so hard to hold back my laughter. How could the First Lady not figure out Liam was just messing with her? It's been a few days and all I did was eat, sleep, and take pictures. I've had enough. One morning I called Grayson. The past couple of days have been exhausting and I've not been feeling well. I'm just gonna rest today. Don't let anyone disturb me. I understand, Your Highness. I should have done this sooner. The front gate was heavily guarded, so I had to sneak out from the backyard. But why was this wall so high? I was about to climb the wall when suddenly I heard a rustling sound below. Huh? A dog hole? Man, I'm in this too deep already. There's no going back. I tried to squeeze through, but I might have had a little too much fruit for breakfast. Come on, you got this! Phew! Finally, I took a deep breath. So this is what freedom smells like. I followed the road ahead and soon saw a village in the distance. I excitedly skipped towards it, but I suddenly stepped on something that I hope was not man-made. Well, it wasn't man-made, but horse-made. When I was figuring out what to do next, someone passed by. He was tall and handsome, just like a male character walking straight out of a Japanese manga. But why does it have to be in this embarrassing situation?
Rules, rules, rules. Moms sure do love dishing them out, don't they? I'm Nicole, by the way. And you see, my parents divorced when I was 8, so since then, it's just been me and Mom. Mom laid down a bunch of boring rules for me, but I hate following them. I'm 18, and I should be out having fun, right? To me, rules were made to be broken anyway. And trust me, I broke them. Only this led to my whole life changing. One day, I had an important math test, but I hate math. So I skipped school and went to the movies with my friends instead. I mean, hello? The last Avengers movie had just come out. No way was I missing it and getting spoilers. Maybe Mom would give me a detention for a few weeks, but it's no big deal, right? I arrived home to find Mom waiting for me. She glared at me and said, "Nicole, I received an interesting phone call from the school. It turns out you haven't been there all day. So, where have you been?" "Oh no! Busted!" I just shrugged and replied, "Out." "It's those friends of yours, isn't it? They are a bad influence." I walked off to my room. "Nicole, come back here and talk!" She shouted after me, but I ignored her. Then she yelled out, "I can't stand you and your childish attitude anymore. You're going to live with your dad." What? She was kicking me out. Wow, I didn't expect her to do that. Whatever. I was sick of being moaned at all the time. Surely Dad would be far more understanding. I hadn't seen Dad all that much. In fact, the last time was, I think it was my 16th birthday. He was a busy man, as he's the principal at this snooty boys' school. And Mom wasn't kidding. She called him up, and that evening, he showed up and loaded my stuff into the trunk of his car. It felt super awkward. I had no idea what to say to him. Then, about an hour into the seriously tedious journey, he said, "I completed all the admission procedures for you, so you can start learning in my school tomorrow." What? It was an all-boys school, and I was a girl. Besides, no way was I studying somewhere where my dad was the principal. Panicked, I asked, "But, Dad, isn't it an all-boys school?" He said, "It used to be, but of late, we've let a few female students in." I can't go there. You're the principal. It'll be so embarrassing. No way. I'll go to another school or something. He gave me a strict look and said, "Mom told me all about your behavior in your old school, and it's unacceptable. So, you'll be learning at my school so I can keep an eye on you. This is not up for debate." OMG, I can't believe it. He was much stricter than Mom. So reluctantly, I muttered out, "Fine, but only if you promise not to tell anyone I'm your daughter." He nodded and said, "Okay, if that's what you want." The school was like something out of one of those weird movies. You know, where the characters think they're safe, but then start disappearing one by one. For starters, it was situated on a hill, miles from anything else. Inside, well, it was so masculine. Browns and grays, and I didn't see one picture in the entire building. The only female thing in the whole place was the girls' restroom. We had to share everything else with the boys. Talk about an inconvenience. The uniform was the same for boys and girls. An oversized shirt and baggy pants and these gross flat shoes. Yuck! During PE, girls were forced to do the same workout as the boys. Bench presses, push-ups, and playing soccer is not my idea of fun. Ugh! And there wasn't even a cheerleading squad. Then there were all these extra dumb rules for the girls, like only uniforms are allowed at school. No skirt, no dress, not even jeans. Do the top button of your shirt up. Tie your hair up into this ugly bun. No flirting with the boys. Yep, that was actually a rule. Can you believe this place? I didn't know whether this was a high school or a prison. I thought this was bad, but I soon realized this school had a major problem. Maybe it's because this school was originally boys only, but man, this place didn't appreciate girls at all. Once in a history class, the teacher asked us what year Abraham Lincoln became president. Easy. But before I could even raise my hand, she continued, "This question seemed too hard for girls, so do any of the boys know the answer?" What? How could she say that? What was with her male chauvinist attitude? This put me in a bad mood, so during dinner, I decided to moan to Dad about it. He needed to know how ridiculous his school was, so I told him how I hated his dumb rules and how sexist the teachers were. He glared at me and told me that there weren't enough girls at the school to warrant a separate uniform. Moreover, if girls dressed up, it would only cause distractions for the boys. As for the history teacher, it was just because boys often have larger knowledge than girls on this matter, so maybe she just didn't want to embarrass the girls in case they couldn't give out the right answer. Huh, what kind of argument was this? It wasn't the olden days? Jeez, these oldies needed to get with the decade. Okay, fine. I'll prove to the whole school and all the teachers that there weren't only boys here. The next day, I gathered all the girls from my class. In fact, there were only 2 of them, Angela and Carly, and we met up in the only girly place, the girls' restroom. Then I told them, "Hey girls, welcome to our club, the Doll. I think it's about time we fought for our rights and presence in this school. As girls matter too, right?" At first, they both seemed worried. I get it, they didn't want to get in trouble, but I soon managed to convince them that it'd be fine. Fun even. So they came around and agreed. First up, it was time to do something about this awful uniform. We tied up our shirts to expose our waists, and I helped the others put subtle makeup on, so our skin looked like it had a natural glow to it. Then we all put glittery hair accessories and colorful scrunchies in our hair to jazz up our updos. Carly looked in the mirror and said, "Okay, maybe our uniform isn't so bad." And we all burst out laughing. Now, it was time to make an entrance. We all walked along the corridor together. All the boys and girls turned around to look at us with admiring eyes and open mouths. One boy even dropped his stack of books on the floor, and another one walked into his locker. Ha! The charm of girls was absolutely irresistible, right? Soon, we became a popular group around the school. The boys wanted to talk to us, and girls from other classes also joined our group, and I showed them how to style up their uniforms. It's great, right? Yep. There's a problem. The teachers were old fogies who didn't appreciate style. One day, before class, one teacher came up to me and my friends and accused us of ruining the dignity of the uniform and of exerting negative influences on other students. So I told her, "We aren't violating any of the school's previous rules. We wear the uniform, we keep our top button done up, and we have the regulation hairstyle. Dressing up is a girl's prerogative. Besides, if boys are distracted, it's their fault, not ours, so you can't blame us for that." After that, I seemed to become a thorn in the side of all the teachers. In every subject, I would always be asked to answer the most difficult questions. And, of course, I didn't know the right answer. I mean, nobody knew it. And then they would give me a gloating look. Ugh, how childish they were. Another time, I was in the lunch queue, and when it was my turn, I chose barbecue chicken drumsticks, as they're my favorite. However, to my surprise, the canteen server said there was no chicken left, then put this weird oatmeal slop on my plate. Ew! I could see there were loads of chicken left, so why was she being so unreasonable? I skipped the gross slop, so as soon as I got home from school, I was so hungry. So I made myself a huge bowl of noodles. Dad saw me devouring the food, then smiled and asked, "Has causing trouble at school all day made you that hungry?" In between my mouthfuls of food, I told him what had happened with the teacher, and in the canteen. He just smiled and said it was because I was too stubborn. What kind of an excuse was that? I mean, when was starving students a good idea? The next morning, I drowsily walked into class and sat down at my desk. That's when I realized I'd forgotten my phone. Well, this totally sucked, so I moaned to Angela. These teachers make my life a misery, and now I don't even have my phone. Today's going to be a long one. Suddenly, someone knocked on my desk. I looked up and saw my dad, aka the principal, standing there in front of me. I was so surprised that before I could say anything, he said, "Hey, Cupcake, you left your phone at home. Oh, and I brought you breakfast, as you know how grumpy you get when you're hungry." Then he put my phone and a sandwich on my desk, stroked my hair, then left. What was he doing? Did he forget his promise? Needless to say, my classmates looked shocked. Angela stared at me and said, "Huh? The principal is your dad? Unbelievable! Why didn't you tell us?" I sat there open-mouthed. This was the most awkward thing ever. "Thanks a lot, Dad." But little did I know, that was just the start of a new chapter of craziness. Things were about to get even worse. And oh boy, you wouldn't want to miss out on that.
Hi guys, it's Sam, your favorite single guy. After my girlfriend of 9 years, Jeanette, cheated on me, I decided to give up on girls and try dating a guy instead. It took a few dates with this guy called Grant for me to realize that I'm not gay. Feeling confused, I wandered over to the lake. That's when I saw the bubble tea girl sobbing her heart out. We ended up chatting and turns out she's pretty amazing. But being the dumb guy I am, I forgot to ask her for her name and number. I'd already run into her twice, so surely it wouldn't be long until our paths crossed again, right? But weeks went by, and there was no sign of her. I even spent a few afternoons in the bubble tea cafe in an attempt to find her again. I didn't spot her, but I did find her look-alike. The poor girl looked terrified when I charged up to her shouting, "Yes, I found you!" Oops. I just couldn't stop thinking about her. Ugh, this was so annoying. Then, to make my day even worse, my mother called and asked me to come over for an emergency meeting. There's no point arguing with my mother, as she's a formidable force, so I went straight round there. As soon as I walked through the door, she waved her phone in front of me. There was the picture of me holding that Grant guy's hand. It seems James had stayed true to his threat. That jerk. He was definitely off my Christmas card list. Mom sternly asked me, "Who is that young man, and are you having an affair with him? What about Jeanette, that poor girl?" Oh yeah, I may have forgotten to tell them that I wasn't with Jeanette anymore. I told my parents to get a stiff drink and sit down. Then I filled them in on Jeanette cheating on me, the breakup, and how in my confused and lonely state I thought I might be gay. But I realized I wasn't. My parents didn't look convinced by my story. They have nothing against the LGBT community, but they own a pharmaceutical company, which I will take over in a few years, and it's important to them that the family has a successor. Ugh, could they just stop overthinking for a sec? Then my mom glared at me as she said, "Sam, your father and I are insistent that you end it with this man at once, and then you shall attend the dates we set up. I happen to know a family with a lovely daughter who's around your age. I'll invite her round for dinner tomorrow night. Make sure you dress smartly." I had no choice but to agree to this, so I wore this stylish chic Italian suit, and my, oh my, it should be a crime to look as handsome as me. Even I found myself irresistible. The family arrived and I braced myself for my first glance of this girl. What? I knew her. To my shock, it was the bubble tea girl. Her parents introduced her. Her name was Julia. Julia? What a beautiful name. I just couldn't hide my joy. I was smiling the whole time. I couldn't stop myself, even though it might have looked kinda creepy. The stars had aligned. The girl of my dreams was sitting opposite me, and wow, I couldn't take my eyes off her. The way she ate, drank, and sneezed, everything was so cute. Oh gosh, I was really falling for this girl. After dinner, my mother suggested I take Julia on a guided tour of the garden, as the roses this season were really beautiful. As soon as we were outside, Julia turned to me and said, "Okay, listen, you're the 10th guy my parents have set me up over the past 2 weeks. I'm exhausted. I have no intention of settling down anyway. So why don't we save each other's time and end it now?" Oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. She didn't like me? I mean, hello? Prince Charming was in a suit, for God's sake. This girl seriously needed her eyes checked. She said, "I'm out of here," and was about to go inside when I had a light bulb moment. Wait, I have an idea. What if we get engaged? She turned around and gave me a shocked look. Well, I'd started this, so I might as well carry on. Your parents are bugging you and mine are bugging me. So let's pretend to get engaged, then we wouldn't have them interfering with our love lives anymore. It would be a win-win for both of us. Julia looked confused and wasn't convinced at all, so I added, "You would still be allowed to date other people, no strings attached. It's just that we would probably have to live together to avoid any suspicion. But that's not a big deal. My apartment has plenty of space. So what do you say?" I could tell that Julia was thinking it over, but she looked like she needed a booster, which is why I blurted out, "Oh, and also FYI, I'm gay. So you don't have to worry about me as you're not my type. It'd be like living with a roommate, albeit an extremely handsome one." Oh, great. How could I win her over when she thought I was gay? Great job, Sam! But then to my surprise, she agreed to it. Oh my God, I didn't think it would work. I was so happy but needed to calm down and play it cool. So we shook hands to seal the deal. The next day, we met up in a cafe to discuss the terms, and we came up with a set of very important rules. 1. Don't tell another living soul about the contract. 2. No excuses. Important events must be attended together. 3. We can date other people, but they must be kept secret from all friends and family. 4. No one else is allowed to stay over, due to limited space and awkward alert. 5. Wednesday night is taco and movie night. This is non-negotiable. We both signed the contract. Wow, I couldn't believe this was actually happening. I was about to embark on a fake relationship with my dream girl. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? We fake dated for a month, then we invited our families to a posh restaurant and announced that we were engaged. Then she showed them the bargain ring we'd gone halves on and everything. My mom was so delighted she wouldn't stop hugging everyone. After that, we moved in together, and my plan to win over my fiancé's heart was officially in motion. On our first night at my place, which was now our new home, I took out an extra pillow for Julia and changed the blanket to a bigger one, so we could share it. Julia saw me making the bed, so she asked, "Oh, what are you doing? You don't seriously think we're sleeping in the same bed together, right?" I said, "Of course we were. Where else should we sleep?" She laughed and said she was taking the bed and that I could sleep on the couch. Oh, hell no. This was a great chance to get close to her. So I said I had back problems and needed to sleep on the bed. I reminded her again I was gay, so no worries, but she still refused, so she slept on the couch. Ugh, she was so stubborn. How was I meant to sleep knowing that my fiancé was on the couch? So I went to check on her and see if she was still awake. Nope. She was fast asleep. Even with her mouth open, she looked super cute. I laid on the ground next to her, and before I knew it, I'd fallen asleep. I had this amazing dream where Julia and I were chasing each other at the beach, and she was teasing me by splashing water on my face. Suddenly, I woke up, as I felt something wet on my face. I opened my eyes, and it was Julia. She was drooling on me. Ugh. I hurried back to the bedroom before she woke up and saw me covered in her slobber, as that would have been awkward. The next morning, I made Julia my specialty breakfast of scrambled eggs, bacon, and sausages. I put real effort into my presentation, so my dishes always look like they came from a Michelin star restaurant. Gordon Ramsay had nothing on my culinary abilities. After breakfast, she went out, so I decided to make a few adjustments. I arranged for the couch to be taken away. Then, later on, I decided to cook her a slap-up dinner. She walked through the door and looked confused when she saw the table was set with a vase of flowers and candles. "What's the occasion?" she asked me. "No reason. I always cook like this," I shrugged. "And where's the couch?" She frowned at me. "Oh, that old thing? It broke. Springs everywhere. It was a danger, really, so I had it taken away. Just stay in my bed until we get a new one." I knew she couldn't refuse now, as there was nowhere else to sleep. But no, she didn't agree. Ugh, she must be doubting I was gay. I knew it. Okay, I still had a backup plan. It was time to bring out the boys. I took a stack of magazines out of my closet and said, okay, at least let me find a blanket for you to sleep on. She looked at the magazines with wide eyes. Yes, they were all People's Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive covers. Chris Hemsworth, Bradley Cooper, and other irresistible chaps. She was about to pick one up, but I gave her a serious look and said, please be careful. They're my prize collection. She was silent for a moment and then said it was okay to sleep in the same bed. Oh my God, success! I knew it was a great idea to borrow those magazines from my friend. Julia took out some extra pillows, put them in the middle of the bed, and said, don't you dare cross the line. I smiled and nodded. The next morning, I woke up and was shocked as hell. Julia was hugging me while sleeping. All the pillows she put in the middle were lying on the ground. Looks like she couldn't resist me. I mean, who could blame her? I am a hunk. I just lay there still and enjoying this beautiful moment. But then she suddenly woke up and pushed me out of the bed. Ouch! It was worth the pain though, right? And it didn't stop there. Living with Julia while having to pretend to be gay was a bumpy road that I've decided to take. I must say, but will this bear me some sweet fruit in the end? Stay tuned to find out.
Bye, Auntie. I waved to her. I promise I'll be fine at home alone. That's good. I'll be back soon, Bee. Then she left. That's my Auntie Anna. I was staying with her while my parents were on vacation. I was about to walk back into the living room when the doorbell rang, so I immediately ran to the door and looked through the peephole. Ah! It was Mom! I quickly opened the door and rushed out to hug her tightly. Mommy! How come you're back so early? Mom stroked my hair and softly said,
Oh, sweetie, I came to pick you up. How can I leave my little princess alone? Now, hurry up and pack your things.
I gave a confused look. But Auntie Anna's at the grocery store. Shouldn't we wait for her? She shook her head.
No, sweetie. I already called her.
So we quickly packed my things, and Mom led me outside to a rather old car, which was completely different from our usual BMW. Mom, where's Dad? This isn't our car. I asked her. She knelt in front of me and smiling said,
Daddy's waiting for us at the beach. It's going to be lots of fun.
I jumped up and down excitedly. Yay! I couldn't wait to build sandcastles and splash in the sea. This was so cool. On the way, I must have fallen asleep, as when I opened my eyes, it was already dark outside. I got out of the car and looked around. Where was the ocean? All I saw was some small house in an unfamiliar neighborhood.
Beatrice, this is our new home. Just you and me from now on.
Mom's sudden words totally woke me up. Mom, why? What about Dad? I stammered.
Listen, I'm sorry. I can't explain it to you at the moment. You're too young to understand.
I had so many questions flying around my head, but looking at Mom's sad face, I knew I shouldn't ask her anymore. The next morning, I woke up excited and curious about our new beginning here. I opened the curtain and saw a group of kids my age playing across the street. So, without thinking, I rushed outside to join them. Hello, I'm Beach. Suddenly, my mom came out of nowhere, a frantic look on her face as she shouted,
I've told you to stay inside!
And pulled me back home. Everyone was gawping at us, including the man who lived across the street. It was so embarrassing. As soon as the door slammed shut, in a serious tone, she said,
We just moved here. You shouldn't make friends with strangers that fast. And don't talk too much about yourself, okay?
Mom had never minded me playing with other kids before, so why now? This didn't make any sense. After that, she only let me out of the house for school, and she always kept an eye on me, so that's why I couldn't make any friends here. I resented her so much. I was so lonely. One good thing about it was she didn't have any house rules, so I could spend all day watching cartoons while eating junk food, and she didn't mind at all. This was great, as before we moved here, Mom and Dad never let me do stuff like this. But eventually, I got sick of those junk foods. I felt kinda icky. I longed for Mom's special spaghetti with crab sauce, so I begged her to make it. At first, she refused, saying that she was very busy, so I kept on whining until she finally agreed. Later, I went to the kitchen for dinner, and the room was an utter chaos. Pots and pans everywhere. Mom looked messy too, as she passed me a plate of spaghetti and meatballs instead of her signature dish. Well, okay, it looked delicious anyway, so I took a full fork of it as Mom watched on. Poof! Water! I need water! Gosh, it's so salty. Mom quickly replaced my pasta plate with a box of fried chicken and said, "Today I'm busy, so I was a bit distracted. Sorry, honey." Her awkwardness made me laugh. "Nah, it's okay, Mom." Mom did seem really busy lately, as her phone was always buzzing. The calls even came late at night when I was asleep, so she always quietly went out to answer it. Guess it's hard being a single mom after all, so I tried to be more understanding. And just like that, time passed. Staying inside and having no friends became the norm for me. Still, I often sat by the window and stared longingly at the kids playing outside. Then one time, when I was doing this, Mom appeared and asked me if I wanted to go to the nearby amusement park. Wow, could there be anything better than this? I leaped up, clapped excitedly, then wrapped my arms around her. Honestly, the park was pretty small, and everything seemed kinda tired looking. But this didn't matter, as it was the best day I'd ever had. Mom never used to like rides or games, but today was different. She even got excited when she saw the beanbag throwing stall. She knocked the tins down in one go and won me this giant cuddly bunny. I've never seen her have fun like this before. My mom is so cool. Afterward, Mom left me sitting on a bench and she went off to get some ice cream. Suddenly, I saw her rushing back, and without ice creams. She pulled on my hand and in an urgent tone said, "We need to go home. We're moving." So we packed up our things and left in a rush. I kept on asking Mom what was going on, but she dodged my questions. During the car journey, I heard her mutter to herself, "We're going somewhere new. It'll be exciting. A new adventure. Yes, it'll be fine this time." I may have been young, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she was hiding something. But she's my mom, and I didn't want to upset her by bugging her with questions. So I stayed quiet and eventually fell asleep. Once again, I woke up in an unfamiliar place and stared out of the window. I wasn't as bothered about this place as I was about the last. I didn't want to get too attached to it, as I didn't know how long it'd be before Mom made us move again. But there was one thing that bothered me. Across the street was a man looking straight at our new house. He looked identical to our previous neighbor. Maybe he'd just moved here too? What a coincidence! I mentioned the man to Mom, but she told me she didn't know him, and then sternly told me never to interact with him. At school, I was the strange kid who didn't talk to anyone. The older I got, the worse this felt. And the other kids laughed at me, and I heard them call me weird behind my back. I felt so lonely and depressed. So at home, I often just sat by the window with a book and tried to pretend that the adventures I was reading about were happening to me. Worse still, Mom was acting even odder than usual. The other day when I got home from school, I found her chucking perfectly good food out of the fridge. Some were even brand new. I asked her what she was doing, and she replied, "It's gone off, so I'm getting rid of it." Then she started scrubbing the fridge. "The smell won't go. Why won't it go?" What was she talking about? Everything seemed fine. What's happening? Then I discovered that Mom often left the house late at night and didn't return till dawn. I knew if I asked her about this, she wouldn't say anything. So that night, I snuck out and followed her. Mom was wearing dark clothes with a hat and a big scarf covering her face, even though it's not that cold outside. Why the disguise? Then, can you believe it? I spotted her going over to the neighbor's house and cuddling him on his porch. I jumped out of the darkness and shouted, "Mom, What's going on? I thought we weren't meant to talk to this man. She gave me an alarmed look. At that moment, Mom received a text. In a panicked voice, she said to me, "Beatrice, we have to go. Now! I'll explain everything later, I promise." Right after that, the mysterious man waved at us and told us to get in his car. Then he sped through the night. After regaining my senses, I turned to my mom and asked, "I hope this explanation is good." Actually, we're in danger, honey. It's your dad. He's an imposter. I only figured this out when I was on vacation with him, and I've been running from him ever since." What? I'd never suspected my dad of being someone else. It made no sense. Then, through sobs, my mom continued to say that my real dad was actually a member of a secret organization, but he had been missing for a while, and now the organization was after us. She often received anonymous messages and calls threatening her. She didn't want me talking to strangers in case they were spies. And those times when she threw all the food out was because she'd received texts threatening to poison the food in our house. She wiped her tears away, then said, "This is Joe. We went to college together, and he's been such a help. We fell in love, but I didn't dare tell you because I was afraid you wouldn't understand." I looked at this Joe guy. I don't know. There was something off about him, but maybe I was just being paranoid. I mean, he had helped Mom out, right? What's that? Ever since I found out about the secret organization, I've been kinda jittery. What if they suddenly turn up and take me and my mom away? I know Mom's worried too, as she seemed so distant. I just want to make things better for us both. Then Christmas arrived. It was quite the special one, as for the first time since we went into hiding, we had guests. Well, one guest, Joe. We raised our glasses for a Merry Christmas, but instead of putting it down, my mom gulped it back in one go. "Mom, are you drinking tonight?" I asked skeptically. "Of course, my dear. It's Christmas. Let me tell you, I'm no less than a man when it comes to drinking." I chewed on my lip as I thought about this. Mom had an alcohol allergy, and at the most, she only had tiny sips. Suddenly, a thought came to mind. Maybe Dad wasn't the imposter after all. Maybe it had been Mom all along. She enjoyed the roller coaster rides, though to my recollection, Mom was afraid of heights. She couldn't cook. She now loved Joe, a strange man, and she could have downed alcohol without being ill. If this was true, then who could I trust now? Something wasn't right. I could feel it in my gut. So the next day, I secretly went to the cops instead of school as usual. Then I found out something crazy. Turns out, my real parents had been looking for me for over the past 6 years. OMG! As for the mother I was living with, who was she? I tried to stay calm while waiting for the police to contact my parents first. And as soon as they got there, the three of us broke down in tears. That's when my real mom told the whole truth. Actually, she had a twin sister called Linda. No one had ever known about Linda, as due to her debt problems, my grandpa rejected her and forbade her to ever show up in front of anyone in the family. But my mom couldn't disown her own twin, so she secretly gave her money. Then one time, Linda was asking for too much that Mom turned her down. Unexpectedly, she came and took me away to pressure my mom to send her more money. During that time, my mom kept transferring her money to make sure I'd be provided for. She hadn't given any information about Linda to the cops, though, because Mom still wanted to talk to her first, though, so that her sister wouldn't end up in trouble. Wow, this was a lot to take in. After that, Mom ran over to Dad, who's in line to talk to the police. She grabbed his hand and begged him to give Auntie Linda a chance. As you see, I missed out on having a normal childhood because of my aunt, and what she did was wrong. But there's a part of me that will always care for her, as she raised me for all these years. And my heart urged me to say, "Dad, I didn't want to turn her in either." My dad looked at me hesitantly, but in the end, he nodded in agreement. So we decided to deal with it ourselves without the intervention of the police. Then, the next day as planned, I was in the front yard with my fake mom when her identical twin marched up to her house and confronted her. Once my Auntie Linda got over the initial shock, she confessed everything to me. It was sad, but glad that it's all over now. Mom paid off her sister's debts with one condition, that she would never, ever get near me again. Now I'm back home with my actual parents. It's going to take some getting used to, as I've forgotten how to make friends, and going outside alone makes me nervous. Looks like the memories of the adventure with my uninvited Aunt Linda might follow me for quite some more time. I know I have to try and move forward. I can't get back the past 6 years, but I can do my best to try and embrace the future.
Hey guys, it's me again, Ellie. So, in the first part of my story, I told you about how my dad abandoned me and my mom when I was just a kid to go live with his mistress, and that made me never want to date guys. But then I met Brian, and we got engaged! Meeting his mom was a huge shock because she was none other than my dad's mistress from all those years ago. I couldn't handle it and decided to get revenge. First, I started working in her company, and then I noticed she had a crush on Clark, the head of the software design department, so I decided to steal him from her, and you won't believe what happened next. One Friday evening, after everyone had left, I noticed that Clark was still working. I made him a cup of coffee and asked about how the proposal he was working on was going. We had a pretty nice chat, and I tried to flirt with him. I won't lie, I started to see why Sasha fancied him. He was a really nice guy. I even gave him my number and said if he ever needed any help with the proposal, just to call me. We didn't get to chat for long, though, because Brian suddenly called me and said he was waiting outside. When I got downstairs, he was dressed up in a nice shirt and said he wanted to take me to our favorite restaurant. I was pretty surprised because we hadn't gone on a spontaneous date in a while. We'd both been so busy recently. I ordered my favorite ramen soup, and then I smiled and asked Brian in a teasing way, "What's the occasion? You haven't taken me out on a date in ages." I waited for him to reply, and he wouldn't look at me. I started to panic and asked him, "Brian, what is it? Is something wrong?" Then he told me that he'd just been assigned to manage a big project in New York. He said he needed to fly there the following week, and that the project was expected to last 3 months. But he said he'd come back every weekend to see me, and that it was just temporary. I couldn't even respond. I just stared at him with the noodle hanging out of my mouth. My heart was doing somersaults. Brian started laughing and said, "Look at you, Ellie. Your mouth is open so wide you're basically drooling. Come on, I'll be back every weekend." Poor Brian, he didn't even know what I was thinking right now. This coincidence was such a perfect ingredient for my revenge recipe, because now I could carry out my revenge on his mom without him knowing. Brian had no idea what I was up to, and I felt kind of bad. He really loved me, and I didn't want to hurt him by doing this to his mom, but I had to. I had to get revenge. Nothing else mattered. Later that night, we were watching a movie together in bed, and as the movie ended, Brian said he was exhausted and wanted to go to sleep. But my phone beeped right at that moment. It was a text from Clark. I didn't want Brian to see, so I took my phone to the bathroom to reply to him, and it said, "Thanks for your support tonight. Due to that, I had came up with a possible solution for the proposal." For the rest of the night, while Brian slept sweetly next to me, Clark and I texted back and forth all night. So far, it looked like my plan was working. Then, the next week, Brian left for his business trip, and as expected, he was so busy he couldn't make it back every weekend to see me. I missed him so much, but I was also grateful because it gave me time to really get to know Clark. And during those 3 months, we became quite close. Of course, during that time, Sasha still consistently flirted with Clark. It was super awkward because he clearly wasn't interested. One weekend, we had a team bonding trip and went stand-up paddleboarding. Sasha pretended she couldn't do it and kept asking Clark to help her, but he pretty much ignored her and hung out with our other colleagues instead. And then she asked him to join her for lunch one day, but he said he was busy, and I just had to laugh, because actually, he was having lunch with me. I had to be really careful that she didn't discover I was flirting with Clark, because then I could lose my job and my plan would have failed. Also, not to mention the fact that I was engaged to her son, and if any mom saw her daughter-in-law to be flirting with some other guy, she'd freak out. Honestly, it was nerve-wracking. I was constantly on edge, terrifying that she'd notice what I was up to. And there were a couple of times where she almost caught me. One night, both Clark and I worked late, and we left the office together and planned to go for a drink. But as soon as we got in Clark's car, I saw Sasha pulling into the car park. She spotted Clark and his car. She literally drove her car toward us. Her face was so cheerful that I knew she would walk toward Clark's car when she got out of her car. At that moment, I knew I had to get out of Clark's car ASAP before she noticed me. I excused Clark that I'd left my phone upstairs, and before Clark could have any responses, I got out of his car and ran as fast as I could. Just only when I safely hid behind a big pillar did I stop to breathe and realize that my heart almost exploded from fear. From that time, I was more careful with Sasha, but it was so hard. A day when I was making a move to Clark in his office, I sat close to him and gave him an affectionate look. And someone knocked on the door. I abruptly got off Clark because I thought that was Brian's mom again. I breathed a sigh of relief when realizing it was only Clark's secretary, yet my heart was still beating very rapidly. It was all worth it, though. After 2 months of flirting with him, he confessed to me that he liked me. When I read the text from him, I was so happy I actually squealed. I'd done it. Now for part 2 of my plan. I was going to use Clark to find out exactly how I could make Sasha's company collapse into a million little pieces. So, when Clark asked me to be his girlfriend, I agreed, but on one condition, that we kept it a secret. Clark agreed to this because he knew there would be lots of troubles if Sasha found out. And honestly, Clark treated me so nicely, even nicer than Brian did. He showered me in gifts, and he really listened to me. Anytime I told him I liked something, he remembered and would surprise me with it the next time I saw him. At work, we had to keep things on the down low, but every morning I'd find a handwritten love note in the drawer of my desk. It really made me feel guilty because it was clear Clark liked me a lot, and there I was, just using him for revenge. The company was about to release the new app they'd been working on for the past year, and it was expected to make the company gain a huge market share and beat all its competitors, including my old company. So I started doing overtime with Clark so that I could get access to the info on how the software for this app had been created. It was top secret info, and as a junior project manager, I had no right to this info. My old company would love to get their hands on this confidential info, and with it, they could easily kick Sasha's company to the curb and dominate the market. Then she'd have lost not just her crush, but also her career. Served her right for what she did to me and my family. One night, after we'd worked super late, he turned to me and said, "We should get going. I'm exhausted." He went to the toilet before we left and asked me to sort out the documents. As soon as he left the room, I took photos of the app development plan and all the different steps in creating the software. This was like gold, but Clark was too quick. He came back before I'd managed to take a pic of the last document. Damn. Now I just need to find another opportunity to get that last bit of info. But I had to act quickly because the app was about to be released and my old company was urging me to send the documents ASAP. That night I felt so anxious that I couldn't sleep. What was I playing at? I mean, sure, I wanted to get revenge on Sasha. She deserved it. But this would crush Brian, who I really did love. And then what about Clark? He liked me so much and had no clue that I was just using him. He'd be devastated if he found out. How had I gone from being an independent single girl with no interest in guys to the kind of girl who two-timed? I couldn't stop thinking about it all, but I had to focus. The revenge plan needed to go ahead. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted, but luckily it was the weekend. I'd arranged to go over to Clark's place to try and get my hands on that last document, but unfortunately, Clark wasn't interested in talking about work. He said it was the weekend and he just wanted to relax with me. Then he suggested we rent bikes and cycle over the Golden Gate Bridge and have a picnic to watch the sunset. Wow, it ended up being the best day ever. I felt so happy and I hadn't realized how funny Clark could be. We laughed non-stop and I didn't want the day to end. We kissed under the sunset. How romantic it was! But little did I know what was waiting for me at home.
Have you ever wondered what being a parent would be like? How about if you suddenly became a parent and your parent became a teenager? Well, it happened to me, and I'm here to tell you all about it. Hello, everybody. My name's Heaven, and I'm 17. But don't let my name deceive you, because this Heaven came straight out of hell. I suppose I've never been the easiest child. Back when I was younger, I had a lot of temper tantrums and outbursts. Once, when I was 8, this boy took the green crayon I wanted, so I snatched it off him, then snapped it in half. He burst into tears, and the teacher got involved and tried to put me in the timeout corner, so I screamed at her and even gave her some bruises. The teacher rang my parents and told them this was the last strike, and I'd been expelled. When they picked me up, my dad just sighed and stayed quiet, but my mom yelled at me. "Well, I hope you're happy now, Heaven. You've brought shame to our family, and now we've got to find another school willing to take you." Now, 9 years later, and the relationship between Mom and me is worse than ever. We just don't see eye to eye on anything. To be honest, we're like strangers. She has absolutely no idea what it feels like to be a teenager, and her super strict rules are ridiculous, such as no boyfriends until I'm 18, no parties, no drinking, no staying out past 8:30 p.m., no unhealthy foods. No, 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 no! She was such a fun killer. Jeez, who was she to try and control me like this? Ugh. Me being me, I tried to find my way around these stupid rules. I made out I was having a girly sleepover at my friend Clara's house, then ended up going to a party. I said I was at an after-school club, when really, I went on a date with a boy, and I chucked the healthy packed lunches she made me in the trash and ordered a greasy burger and loaded cheese fries instead. I hated the fact that Mom was ruining my life with all of her dumb rules, and she hated the fact that I didn't respect her enough to follow her dumb rules. Because of this, we argued. A lot. And my little bro John and my dad often found themselves stuck in the middle. I guess that they couldn't stand the icy atmosphere between us. So eventually, they themselves prepared for a family day out. And it was certainly going to fix nothing. Her rules still followed us to the park, and she'd even stopped me talking to this really cute guy and shouted at me to go mind John. Ugh! I wasn't here to be a maid! Then, when we got home, she insisted I help her cook dinner. So I poured Dad a beer, and when I thought Mom wasn't looking, I slurped back the rest of the can. Suddenly, my mom screamed out, "What do you think you're doing? You're too young to be drinking!" I just rolled my eyes and said, "What? It was a tiny sip. Stop being so uptight, else you'll turn into a wrinkly old prune." Then I threw the can on the floor and walked off. She gave me a fierce glare, but I didn't care. How could she be just so serious? So when we were all sitting around the table for dinner, I could feel the tension between me and Mom. She passed John a plate full of chicken nuggets, but she passed me a plate heaped full of broccoli. Yuck! Where are my nuggets? I asked. Mom replied, "John is a growing boy. You, however, need to eat some vegetables, as you're getting a little chubby." How dare she? I wasn't even fat. In fact, I'm so skinny, I could be a model. If anyone needed to watch their weight, it was her, not me. She was the one squeezing herself into her old pair of skinny jeans. So I grabbed my plate of broccoli and threw it in the trash. Mom got up and said, "Fine, go hungry. See if I care. And you can clean up after yourself from now on." I yelled back, "Ridiculous! There's nothing in my stomach and you're giving me chores? Is this child abuse?" But then my dad startled us by slamming his fist on the table. "That's enough! Both of you! Start acting like grown-ups!" We both muttered out sorry. Then Dad came up with his bonkers idea. "Okay, so if you two cannot live in harmony, why don't you trade places?" Mom and I were kind of confused. "What do you mean?" I said to him. "Well, it's simple. Heaven, you'll switch places with Mom and do the housework, shopping, making dinner, and taking care of John, and so on. While Ariana," he looked at Mom, "you'll relive your teenage years and go to school." Let's say for 2 days. Mom looked thrilled at the prospect of being me. As for me, I wasn't convinced. I mean, who likes doing chores? Besides, tomorrow at school was class picnic day, which meant no classes, lots of tasty food, and plenty of time to stare at cute boys. But Mom seemed so excited at the idea of being me, so I decided I could take advantage of this. Does this mean I don't have to follow any stupid rules? I asked, and Mom and Dad nodded in agreement. Okay then, all the strict rules are gone. Does this mean I can eat chocolate in bed? John asked. I grinned. You betcha! Mom just shrugged and said, It's okay, Mom. Now I have to prepare stuff for my picnic. And she excitedly ran upstairs. This would be a breeze, right? I mean, how hard could being Mom actually be? The next morning, John woke me up extra early and insisted I make him breakfast. Yawn. While I was pouring cereal into a bowl for him, Mom appeared. She was wearing her hat backwards. Geez, someone seriously needed to tell her it wasn't the 90s anymore. Have fun, Ariana. I winked at her. You too, Mom. She winked back. I watched her through the window. As she got on the school bus, she turned to me and did the peace out sign. Geez, could she be any more uncool? Whatever, she could be as cringy as she wanted. I didn't care, as I had the whole day at home alone. Or at least, until I had to pick up my bro from school. I didn't bother loading up the dishwasher, and I sidestepped past the massive pile of laundry and decided to spend the morning on the couch watching a chick flick and painting my nails. This was the life. A few hours passed, and I was so bored and hungry, so I went into the kitchen to look for food. But the cupboards were empty. Then I noticed a shopping list and some money on the counter. Reluctantly, I walked to the local store, but I ignored the list and bought lots of snacks. Hey, I was Mom, so I made the rules. In the end, I found myself so bored that I actually ended up doing the laundry. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I threw everything into the machine, fiddled with the dial, and hoped for the best. Then my phone rang. It was Clara. So I answered and she said, Hey, why is your mom here instead of you? I told her about the switch-up, then asked her what my mom was up to. She was quiet for a second, then said, well, she's definitely enjoying the picnic. In fact, she's showing Mrs. Puller her dabbing skills. What? My mom was dabbing? Which no one did anymore. And in front of our ancient science teacher? Was she trying to humiliate me? Whatever, my mom could get on with it. I had house chores to do. Geez, what's with chores? They seriously never seem to end. By the end of the day, I was so exhausted that I ordered takeout for everyone, then slumped in front of the TV. I finally had the option to stay out late, but I didn't have the energy to do it. Then, the next day, when I was doing yet more house chores, my friend Patrick sent me a photo. It was Mom. She was wearing a cheerleader's outfit that exposed her midriff. What? She was just at a casual football match. No one dressed up for that. Then Patrick sent me another picture. In it, Mom was fiddling with her hair and touching some jock's shoulder. OMG. Was she trying to flirt with him? Whatever. I didn't have time for this. I had to go pick John up from school, then go to the grocery store to get supplies for dinner. We arrived home to find Mom slumped on the couch, surrounded by empty wrappers and cans. On seeing me, she said, Oh, you're back. I told John to go to his room, then I stormed over to Mom and said, What's with all this mess? Clean it up! She just smirked at me and said, Nah, you never clean it up, so why should I? After all, we have switched places, remember? She finished her beer, then burped loudly before she threw the can at my feet, then walked off. This was so annoying. I'd already tidied the living room once today, and now I had to do it again. My mom was so unfair. Then, when I finally managed to grab 5 minutes to relax with a hot chocolate, loud thudding sounds were coming from upstairs. It was her music. It was so loud, it made the ceiling shake. Geez, She was so annoying. Then suddenly, it dawned on me. This was how I acted. Mom was just being me. So, okay, I guess I was a little harsh at times. I suppose being mom wasn't as easy as it looks. So I decided to make amends by making a delicious dinner. But there was one problem. I can't cook. In fact, the last time I tried to cook, I set the crepes and the pan on fire. So, for safety purposes, I asked Clara and Patrick to help me. They had cooking class, so they knew what to do. We created a feast of barbecue ribs, burgers, cornbread, salad, grape punch, and for dessert, a chocolate lava cake and blueberry pie. I swear they looked so good, I wanted to drool all over them. Mom came downstairs chewing her gum and scrolling through her phone, but then she looked at the food and stuttered, How did you make all of this? Not even I could make this many meals. I just shrugged and said, I had a little help from my friends. No biggie. Then I stopped in front of Mom and said, I'm sorry that I've been a bad daughter. I know you do a lot for me, and I promise I'll be better from now on. Mom started crying and said, I'm sorry too. I know it isn't easy being your age. I can't keep up with the trends. I thought dabbing was popular. Anyway, from now on, I'll be fair to you, and we'll have fun together. After that, we hugged it out. Then my dad stood up and said, Whoa, now anyone want to trade places with me? John immediately raised his hand, and all could see his eyes light up. Soon, we all burst out laughing, thinking about one day John will go to work and talk about dinosaurs at the meetings. Meanwhile, my dad is building a Lego castle for John's kindergarten girlfriend. My family is now happier than ever. It's all thanks to my dad's crazy idea. You should never disrespect your parents. Otherwise, you might just find yourself living in their shoes. Literally. And trust me, I'll take strict rules and being nagging parents any day if the alternative is grocery shopping and house chores. Ugh!
I work as a waitress in a restaurant, and I can safely say that the term, the customer is always right, is definitely wrong. The way some customers act is ridiculous. It's like they're from a different planet at times. I love my job, but I dislike these awkward customers. Looking back on it, I realize that I have plenty of bizarre and funny stories, so I'm going to share the funniest ones with you. One time, this guy insisted he needed lime juice for his meal. As we're an Italian restaurant, we don't have any on hand, but I knew that the bar should have some. I politely told him that the kitchen didn't have any, but the bar uses them with the bottles of Peroni, so I might be able to get him some from there. He looked up at me and asked, Are you going to charge me for that? I smiled and replied, I think I can get a garnish for you for free. When I came back with the lime, he didn't thank me. Instead, he gave me a confused look. Where's my Peroni? He demanded. Sorry, sir? You said you wanted the lime. Did you want to order a bottle of Peroni as well? Yes, I want one. You said you wouldn't charge me. As soon as I told him I couldn't give him a free drink, he was furious and demanded that I get my manager. I went and got my boss and filled him in on what had happened. This man started shouting at him and insisted that I'd promised him a free bottle of Peroni with his slice of lime, and he wanted it right now. My boss managed to defuse the situation, but the man insisted that he'd never be coming back. He also didn't leave a tip, which, I guess, wasn't surprising. Another time, a group of customers walked in and ordered drinks. One member of the group asked for water, ice, and sugar. I thought this was odd, but I was used to customers asking for strange things, so I brought him what he asked for. He then took slices of orange out of his backpack and made all the things up himself like a bartender. Then he had a free orange juice. Another time, it was pretty late after closing, and I was waiting for the last table to finish eating so I could clean up. In the meantime, I was doing some other closing work on the other side of the restaurant and glancing occasionally over my shoulder to see if they needed something. The woman had almost finished her spag bowl when I saw her take something out of her pocket and drop it onto her plate. The woman stormed over to me and held out the plate. She pointed at something that was in the sauce and demanded to see my boss, so I went and got him. This woman actually delved into the spag bowl sauce and pulled out a dead small cockroach, and she then began to dangle it in front of us. I shrieked out and took a step back. She threatened to report us to environmental health, refused to pay, and then demanded a free meal voucher. If she really had found a cockroach in her meal, why would she want a free voucher to come back again? I told my boss that I saw her put it in her meal, so he asked her to wait while he checked the camera. She went completely bonkers and spat out racial slurs, profanities, and awful threats at us. My boss remained calm and politely asked them to pay and then leave. They kept refusing to pay. It was only when my boss said he'd called the police that her husband reluctantly paid for the meal. The whole thing was ridiculous. Who would carry a dead cockroach around with them just to get free food? Yuck! My most memorable customer was a woman in her 30s. She was polite at first and told me that she would just order a drink for now, as the friend she was meeting was running late. I went and got her a glass of wine, and then I went to a nearby table to take their orders. I turned and looked over at her. She smiled at me. Then she picked up her wine and purposely poured it over her lap. She screamed out and jumped up to her feet. Both me and another waitress rushed over to her. She pointed over at me. It was her! She poured my wine all over me! I'm sorry, madam, but I wasn't even near you, I replied in the calmest tone I could manage. Are you calling me a liar? She screamed out. This is an outrage! My designer dress is ruined! Everyone in the restaurant was staring over at us. It was really embarrassing. Also, there was no way her dress was designer, as my sister owned the same dress and it cost her $20. My boss came over and tried to calm the woman down. I passed her some napkins to dry herself with, and my boss gave her a large wine on the house. He also said that he wouldn't charge her for the first one, and her bill would be discounted 30% in total as an apology. Suddenly, the woman went from angry to polite. She thanked my boss, then she sat back down and looked at the menu. 10 minutes later, her friend showed up, and this woman ordered a 3-course meal and acted as if nothing had happened. She even left me a tip. If I ever gain access to a time machine, the first thing I will do is go back, find the person who coined "the customer is always right" saying, and bring them back to watch this video. Then ask them if they want to correct their words. They certainly aren't always right. They just think that they are. My job can be challenging at times, but I enjoy being a waitress. Luckily for me, the majority of my customers are lovely. I hope my funny stories made you laugh. They didn't feel funny at the time, but now when I look back at them, I smile. After all, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and no one wants to do that.
Hey, I'm Duncan, but my friends all call me Dunk. I was so excited about finally leaving home and experiencing all the freedom and fun of college. I got lucky with my roommate, as Andy's a great guy. We have similar taste in music, so we spent our time going to concerts. Because of his popularity, he received invites to all the best parties, and I got to tag along. As amazing as being Andy's friend was, it also had its problems. You see, Andy's a handsome guy, and the girls couldn't resist his chiseled jawline and muscly physique. I wasn't exactly ugly or anything, but next to him, I felt mediocre at best. He was basically a girl magnet, and I became invisible to them. To be honest, I found myself secretly jealous of him, and this made me take a step back from the parties and the concerts. Even though I was obviously making excuses not to hang out with him, Andy remained nice to me. Some of his admirers gifted him chocolate and candies. Andy's probably the only person I know who doesn't like sweets, so he gave them all to me. Jackpot! I suppose that with time and lots of sweets, I began to mellow down. Andy was a great guy, and it wasn't his fault that he was a stud, so it wasn't fair to punish him for this. Things went back to normal, and I took my place as Andy's average-looking sidekick. Then I met Rosie. She's cute, funny, and super sweet. It wasn't long before I developed the biggest crush on her. The problem was, she was pretty much in love with Andy. Rosie was always showing up with gifts for him and going out of her way to flirt with him at parties, but he remained uninterested in her. One time at a party, I saw her sitting alone outside. She looked upset for some reason, so I gave her a drink and tried to cheer her up. She went on about how much she loved Andy. Then she looked at me with wide eyes and begged me to help her get to know him better. This sucked, but I couldn't exactly tell Rosie how much I liked her. At least helping her out meant I'd get to spend more time with her. Rosie and I began to hang out more, and in turn, Andy hung out with us too. I don't think Rosie liked the concerts we went to, but her face lit up every time Andy rubbed shoulders with her or shot her a smile. It was a weird dynamic, but it worked. At least until the evening Rosie drunkenly confessed her love to Andy. He turned her down, and after that, things were super awkward between them. Not long after that, Andy started dating this girl called Belinda. This upset Rosie, but she tried not to show it. The four of us went out for a seriously awkward dinner together, so we can meet her properly. I couldn't stop staring at Rosie, as she was in this sexy lace dress, but she only looked at Andy as if he's the only one in this room. Andy and Belinda went home after that, but Rosie dragged me to a bar and forced me to drink shots. Then she cried on my shoulder about how much she loved Andy and how Belinda was no good for him. It was weird, as a part of me was glad to be close with Rosie, but it was also hard comforting her, when all she did was go on about my best friend. Belinda always bought Andy loads of chocolate bars, and he'd always chuck them over at me. Once I asked him, "If you don't like them, then why don't you tell her?" He stuttered a little. "Nah, it's no big deal. Besides, I've got you to eat them for me." Belinda didn't come over all that much. In fact, Andy didn't seem to spend all that much time with her at all. This didn't go unnoticed by Rosie, who thought their relationship was kinda strange. Andy had saved Belinda's phone number as just her name, nothing cute. Also, when they walked around campus, they stayed kinda apart, at least until anyone they knew saw them. Then they immediately cozied up to each other. Rosie got it into her head that their relationship was fake, and that he was only doing it to make her jealous. I wasn't sure if I believed this or not, but I guess it kinda made sense. I expected Andy and Belinda to break up, only they didn't. By the end of college, they were still together, much to Rosie's annoyance. Meanwhile, Rosie dated a few guys, but it all ended in bad breakups, and it was always me who was there to console her. Once she got upset and drank too much, then blurted out how she must be an awfully ugly person. I laughed and told her that was crazy, as she had no idea just how beautiful she was. She moved in closer to me, and for a few seconds, I actually thought she was going to kiss me. But then she turned her head away and said, "Dunk, you're the sweetest guy. Maybe if we're both single after graduation, then we could date." I just forced a smile. I didn't take what she said seriously, as she was very drunk. She probably wouldn't even remember saying it. She passed out and I had to carry her home, where I had to explain to 3 separate groups of people that she was my friend and I wasn't trying to assault her. After that, I tried to keep my distance from her. My heart just couldn't take it anymore. At our farewell graduation party, Rosie came and said her goodbyes to me. Before she left, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Looks like we're both single. Call me sometime." Then she winked at me. So it turns out she did remember what she said to me. And she meant it. On our last day in our place, Andy chucked me a chocolate bar. I jokingly told him, "You need to start to learn to eat it because from tomorrow, I won't be here to help you." He let out a thoughtful sigh, then sat down. "Actually, I do love sweets, but I gave them to you because you love them, and I love you, and I have done ever since we first met. I tried to push the feelings away, but it didn't seem to work. I know you like Rosie. That's why I faked the relationship so that you'd have a chance with her. I'm sorry for dropping this bomb on you, but I needed to get it off my chest before we left." I stared at him with a confused look on my face. At first, I thought he was joking, but then I realized he was being deadly serious. All this time, and I had no idea how he really felt. So now both Rosie and Andy like me. What's going on? I feel so conflicted, so I haven't contacted either of them yet. The problem is, I can't stop thinking about Andy. I'm missing him far more than Rosie. Could I be bisexual? I've never doubted my sexuality before, but this has got me all confused. Please help me out, as I don't know what to do next.
It's me again, Ashley. And yep, you guessed it. I was still stuck in this apartment with these annoying kids. That was definitely the weirdest detention ever. None of us had any idea how long we'd be stuck here. Oh well, at least we weren't starving, as every 3 days a giant bag full of groceries would appear inside the doorway, since we couldn't get out of there. Things had become a little less awkward since the day we'd sat down and opened up to each other. Although Ned had switched from being a jerk towards Jessica to following her around the place like a lovesick puppy. Take this morning. For instance,
He held a slice of toast out to her, which he'd cut into the shape of a heart. She rolled her eyes as she pushed the plate away. Poof! Get real, nerd! I don't like you. He took a bite of the toast, then in between chewing said, You'll soon change your mind. I'm Sin 2X and you're Coast 2X. So together, we're one. I had to admit, watching Ned try and fail to win Jessica's heart was amusing. But unfortunately, I had my own guy-shaped issue to deal with. Philip. He wasn't winding me up anymore. Instead, he was being nice to me. He even lent me his hoodie after I spilled jam on mine. This nice version of him would take some getting used to. Now we just needed Gwen and Stan to become a couple, and things would be even more interesting. But they barely look at each other. Lucky them, as Philip was really starting to bug me. Can you believe that he actually sprayed my favorite t-shirt with his aftershave? It stank and made me sneeze. Achoo! So I stormed into the living room where he was telling some lame joke to Ned, chucked my t-shirt at him, then yelled, Stop being weird. It's too much. He just gave me this soppy grin and replied, It's so I'm always on your mind. Ugh, I wasn't in the mood for this, so I returned to my room and sulked there for the rest of the day. Ugh, this apartment was too crazy. I just wanted to go home. My stomach started to rumble, so I reluctantly left the room to grab a snack. What? Jessica was spoon-feeding Philip cereal. Ned was sulking in the corner of the room, and Gwen was mimicking Jessica's actions with Stan, who now had mushed up cereal all over his face. Jeez, Philip thought he was so handsome that he could get any girl he wanted. Well, he sure moved on fast. Fine, I'd show him. I squeezed in between Gwen and Stan and touched his hair. Your hair, Stan. I've never known it is so glossy. I put my hand on my chin and looked at him with adoring eyes. And in my cutest voice, I asked him, Would you like me to make you some French toast? Stan gave me this petrified look and tried squirming away from me. Then Philip and Jessica walked over, and he frowned at me. Come on, Ash. You and the emo? Really? Gwen snorted. Oh yeah, it's better than a pretty doll and a jock. Oh wait, actually, you two are perfect for each other. Stan quietly laughed to himself, then muttered out, Right, dumb people should be together. Suddenly, Jessica burst into tears. What? Why was she crying? Everyone fell silent and looked at her. Come on, Jess, he was only kidding. I awkwardly patted her back. Then she blurted out, I've always had a thing for Stan, okay? Huh? Well, none of us were expecting that. Poor Stan looked like he was gonna faint with shock. Jessica must have been burying these feelings deep down for so long. She was the most popular girl with a reputation to live up to, after all. Through sobs, Jessica looked at Stan and continued, I knew us being here together was my chance to see if you like me. So, I agreed to Philip's deal to see if you're jealous. Tears streamed down her face. But you just think I'm some dumb, pretty doll. She mumbled out an apology to Ned for being insensitive to him, then turned to Stan, sobbed, I'm not a porcelain doll. I have feelings. And left. Oh, wow. I didn't see that coming. I guess I feel kinda bad for her. And also guilty. But hold up. Philip's deal? Oh, so he pulled that out to make me jealous too? That night, we had another meeting. Yawn. This one was as dull as it sounds. Well, until we started discussing the meaning behind this detention. Hey, since when did detentions go on for this long? It's been 2 weeks already. Ned looked concerned. We all agreed. We'd learned how to live in some sort of harmony together, but still, we need to go outside. Also, my family would be worrying, right? There's 2, I hope. Then the next morning, Philip was trying to de-jam the air vent in the kitchen when he waved us all over. He pointed up at something small with a tiny red light on it. Ned and he took it down. It was a camera. It could be a security camera, Jessica said. My house also has a few inside, in case of intruders or something. Gwen sneered. Duh, your house is a freaking mansion. Here, there's no need for a security cam. We decided to spread out and look for more cameras. In total, we found 5, all hidden around the place, including in a plant pot and fixed to a picture frame. It was freaky to think there could be more scattered around the place. Ugh. We gathered in the living room to discuss what to do about this, when suddenly the front door opened and in walked the principal and some other man I'd never seen before. Huh? Who was he? Did this mean we could finally go home? The other man started talking. Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin, and you are the participants in my exciting reality show. Your principal here put you all forward for this, as I wanted kids with 6 varying personalities. Gwen stood up and shouted, What? Is this for real? I added, There's no way my parents would have agreed to this. They did, the principal grinned. They signed the documents. They all think you are at training camp. Kevin added, Keep up the good work, guys. The viewers are loving all this drama and attitude. Jessica screamed out, You can't do this! It isn't right! We'll keep you here for some more time to see how this project goes. Don't worry, you'll all get scholarships after this. That is, as long as you cooperate. We watched as they took away the cameras we'd found. And, yep, you guessed it, they locked the door behind them. Then we gathered in the spot in the kitchen, which didn't have any cameras in it, and whispered about what we should do next. Ned suggested, I've done my calculations, and if we join all our clothes together, we can climb down from the window. We were about 4 floors up, so guess this was possible. Under Ned's instruction, we all wet our clothes before we joined them, as apparently this would make them less likely to tear. I'll go, Philip added. I mean, I'm way stronger than the rest of you, and I'm the fastest, so I'll reach the cop station in record time, report those jerks, then send help. So the plan was set, and we all clung onto the end of the clothes rope as Phil climbed down it. It was kinda impressive watching him abseil down the building, and he was like a real-life Spider-Man. When he reached the bottom, we hid the clothes rope in the wardrobe and slid a piece of paper under the apartment door, so Philip could find our room again. Now it was a waiting game. We all tried to carry on as normal, as we were aware of the hidden cameras. Suddenly, the door barged open, and in walked the principal, Kevin, and 4 massive dudes. Oh no! Jessica frightenedly whispered. Those men instantly started collecting our stuff. When one of them picked up Gwen's hat, she charged at him. Get off of my stuff, creep! The man grabbed her around the waist with one arm and pulled her across the room. She thrashed, kicked, and screamed. She might have been big, but she's still a teenage girl, so she was no match for him. Jessica, Ned, and I all clustered together, not knowing what to do. Only Stan seemed to keep his quiet and calm. With a grin on his face, Kevin shouted, Well, that wasn't very clever now, was it? So we're moving you somewhere new before you're discovered. Right at that moment, Philip ran into her room, followed by some cops. There they are! It's them! They locked us up in here! The principal straightened his tie, then in a polite tone said, Oh, please. This is a misunderstanding. I'm the principal of Xavier Springs High School, and these are the particularly delinquent students who are all in detention. We're administering a special education program for them. And here's their teacher. He pointed over to Kevin. Liar! I shouted. They just made up excuses to punish us and trap us in here. There's hidden cameras and we're on some reality TV show. Ignore her. She has, mental issues. She'll do anything to get out of detention. Then he pointed at Gwen. Look, officer, how could we not have special treatment for an aggressive girl like that? Don't you think? We all shouted and tried to explain, but our words jumbled together. The only one who remained silent was, no surprise, Stan. The cops searched around, but found nothing. They thought we were only unruly teens trying to bail on detention. They were about to leave when Stan calmly walked over to them, pulled out one of the cameras we'd found the other day from his pocket, and passed it to them. Then, Stan, still without any words, pulled out a vintage recorder, pressed the button, and we all heard the whole conversation about TV shows and the principal's threats. Whoa! Nice work, Stan! The cops instantly arrested them, and we were taken back to our families, who all sobbed with joy on our return. So, what came next? Well, my high school got a new principal, and this one hasn't given me detention. Yet. The former principal and Kevin and his whole crew are in serious trouble with the cops. Looks like they might end up in jail. As for the 6 of us, well, we formed an unbreakable friendship. Philip got a sports scholarship, and I'm super proud of him. He also told his dad how he was feeling, and they sorted things out. Ned finally stood up for himself to his parents, and now they're trying to be more understanding. He also has a girlfriend, and just won first prize of the state in physics. The nerd. Jessica and Stan are an official couple, and they don't care what other people think of them. They're actually super cute together. But shush! Don't tell them I said that. Gwen decided to leave this town and go study at an all-girls boarding school. She just started dating a girl there named Claire. She sounds really happy. We're all glad to hear. So, I guess Miss Tough Cookie has a soft side after all. And me? Well, I went from a lonely and awkward girl to having 5 unlikely best friends and a wonderful boyfriend. Yep, I'm now with Philip. Guess being in detention wasn't so bad after all. Cheers! So, finding out that my amazing adoptive parents were actually highly likely to be the biological parents of Lisa was a shocker. The clues were there, such as Lisa's flower bracelet turned necklace and her diamond-shaped birthmark that were identical to my adoptive parents' missing child's. Surely, this couldn't just be coincidence. Back in the orphanage, Lisa and I used to talk about our real families returning for us, but I put this down to childish naivety. I never believed it could actually happen. I kept my news a secret for a few days while I absorbed all this information. It was a life changer for us all. I couldn't shake the image of Mom sitting on the balcony sadly, looking through the old baby box she kept of her missing child. She'd missed out on years of her daughter's life. So if Lisa really was her missing daughter, then I didn't want to be the one to keep them apart any longer. The next day after school, I invited Lisa over. I sat them all down and told them my theory. I made Lisa show them her bracelet to her necklace and the diamond-shaped birthmark on the top of her right arm. This shocked both my adoptive parents and Lisa, but it also made loads of sense. Seeing Lisa next to them made me realize how much she looked like my adoptive mom. They took a DNA test, and it was a tense few days as they waited for the results. When they came back positive, my parents burst into tears and wouldn't stop hugging both Lisa and me. It wasn't long after this that I realized I hadn't thought this through properly. Why would my adoptive family want me when they now had their real kid back? Would they soon get sick of me and kick me out? Or would they do a trade-off with Lisa's adoptive family, and I'd be stuck in their poor household babysitting their little boy? My parents wouldn't quit going on about Lisa. They constantly asked how she was, blah, blah, blah. They never asked me about my day anymore. Instead, they wanted me to tell them everything about Lisa. They invited Lisa over all the time. She always seemed to be in my living room watching documentaries with Dad or in the kitchen helping Mom cook. One time, I arrived home late to find Lisa sleeping in my bed. This really bugged me, as she didn't live here. This was my adoptive family. She had her own. I went back to low-key hating Lisa again, like I did back when we'd been in the orphanage together. I was super nice to her face, but behind the scenes, I did little things to mess up her day and to make myself feel better. One time, I put her homework in the trash. Another time, I hid her jacket so she had to go out in the rain in just a thin sweatshirt, and I stuck used chewing gum in her pencil case. I know these things were mean of me to do, but
I was so afraid of losing my new family to perfect Lisa. I just wanted them to love me, but I felt second best. One time after school, I was playing basketball with the boys at school. Then I saw my mom and dad come and pick up Lisa from school. They all looked so happy, laughing, talking to each other. Why had they picked her up and not me? I'm the one who actually lives with them. Ugh, why were they purposely leaving me out? I had flashbacks to being back in the orphanage and how Lisa's adoptive parents picked her over me. Why was it always her and not me? What was wrong with me? I felt so unloved, but most of all, I felt mad. I couldn't face going home and watching them play happy families, so I went and stayed at my friend's house. The more I thought about it, the more I didn't want to go back home. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't a big deal, because I've always been a stray cat since I was born, so I'd be just fine by myself. I knew I couldn't stay at my friend's forever, so my plan was to sneak home at midnight and pick up some stuff before I left this town for good. That night, as I got to the fence and about to climb in, I noticed the light on the balcony was still on. My mom was sitting there with a glass of wine and crying. Then Dad came comforting Mom and said, "She'll be home soon," and led Mom back inside. It was so heartbreaking to watch, and I felt so stupid for all of my selfish thoughts. They must be very upset, as the worst thing that had ever happened to them was losing a child, and now my disappearing act was making them relive it. They even adopted an older kid so this wouldn't happen, and I'd gone and run off like a spoiled brat. I swallowed my pride and walked into my house, where I saw that the living room was full of decorations and a fallen-down banner that read, "Thank you, Eva." My parents heard my footsteps, so they came downstairs, and as soon as they saw me, they both ran at me and hugged me so tightly. Then they burst into tears. It turned out that they'd only been picking Lisa up from school that day as they were throwing me a surprise party, thanking me for helping reunite them. But I never came home. They'd been terrified that they'd lost another kid, and they didn't think they could deal with the heartbreak again. I cried and told them all of my worries and thoughts about being left out and abandoned again, as Lisa was already picked over me once before. They said, "Silly, you're both our kids. If anything, we now love you even more because you're the angel who reunited this family." So, did they trade me with Lisa's family? Nah. Besides, Lisa and I are both off to college now. Lisa now has 2 loving families, and we're back to being the best of friends. In fact, I don't just view her as my friend. She's also my sister, although we're still fighting to decide who the big sister is. She's older than me by 3 months, but I'm taller and bossier, so I maintain it's me. I had to wait a while to find my perfect family, but it turns out they were all definitely worth the wait.
I walked into the cafeteria and gulped. The only free seat was next to Joanna, one of the weirdest girls in school. She was always sitting alone, and usually I'd avoid her because people said she didn't speak much and was totally shy. But somehow, I felt kinda sorry for her. I mean, how bad could it be? Well, famous last words. It was bad. I sat down with a smile, but she just glared at me and grunted, "Go on then. Throw me your worst insult." I was confused and said, "Oh, no, I just wanted to sit here and say hi. Are you okay?" Suddenly, Joanna started speaking at 1,000,000 miles per hour, telling me that of course she wasn't okay and that she had to see a therapist every day. Then she showed me all the pills she had to take and said she had crippling anxiety. I was shocked. Overwhelmed with TMI, I felt uncomfortable and thought of leaving, but then she grabbed my hand and said, "We're friends now, right? I've never had a friend in my life before. You're the first person I've really been able to open up to. Not even my parents know how hard it is for me." Whoa, I couldn't leave her now. I patted on her shoulder and told her I'd happily be her friend. I mean, it would just be spending some lunch together or grabbing a coffee at most. It'd be fine. However, Joanna's interpretation of a friend was slightly different from mine. 3 days later, I got back from the library quite late, so I went straight to my room as usual and started changing, only to find Joanna right behind me as I turned around. I almost woke up the whole building with a scream of fright. "Oh, hey, Rumi," she said with a big grin. What? This was insane. Rumi? What do you mean? But she just laughed and said she'd felt very lonely in her dorm on her own, and seeing as I had a double room, she'd asked the dorm supervisor if she could move in with me. I guess it wasn't so bad. I mean, I got lonely too sometimes. So that night, we stayed up super late chatting. And to be honest, it was actually nice to have a roomie. We became quite close, and a few nights later, we were having a movie night. Joanna turned to me and said, "Carrie, there's something I need to tell you." Oh no, surely there wasn't any more disturbing things left. How did this girl cope? But then she started blushing and said, "I have a crush on someone. His name is Mitch." Oh gosh, I knew exactly who she was talking about. "Joanna, he's bad news. He's a total womanizer. You're way too good for him." At least, that's what I said, but what I meant was that he was only into popular girls. He'd never go for a girl like Joanna. Joanna didn't take it well. "You're jealous, aren't you? I bet you have a crush on him too." "Well, I confessed, so he's mine." "Huh, you're welcome to him. I never fancy someone like Mitch. I'm not that kind of girl." Joanna then said she'd prove to me that she could win him over. I felt annoyed at her and just went back to watching the movie. For a second there, it felt like my life had way more drama than ever before, and I started regretting ever sitting at her table that day. Little did I know, it was just the beginning. A week later, I was hit in the face by a huge surprise. Joanna and Mitch started dating. I was lying there listening to music when I heard voices outside the door. I opened it, and there was Mitch walking off. He turned back to blow Joanna a kiss, and then you should have seen the smug expression on her face. "Told ya," she said, laughing. Wow, cocky. But okay, I was happy for her. She was a woman of her word. But I was worried she'd get hurt. I didn't have time to tell her this, though, because pretty soon she was with him 24/7. He even came over to our dorm, and I was sick of listening to them kissing. They were disgustingly lovey-dovey all the time, and it quickly became exhausting. On Valentine's Day, he sent 100 balloons to our dorm, and I couldn't even get through the door. Could he be any more over the top? It wasn't even that romantic. But Joanna was smitten. It was painful to watch. But not as painful as seeing Mitch walking along the street holding some other girl's hand. I froze. This couldn't be. I quickly texted Joanna asking her how things were going between her and Mitch. She replied immediately saying, "All good, why?" So I told her what I'd seen, but I got no reply. I rushed back to our dorm and asked her why she was ignoring me and if she was okay. But she just started shouting at me, saying I was trying to ruin her relationship because I was jealous. Clearly, she didn't believe me. I told her I was telling the truth, but she just got up and left, slamming the door behind her. Things got really awkward after that. She ignored me in the dorm, ignored me in class, and wouldn't reply to any of my texts. And she still brought Mitch back to our room and kissed him in front of me. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and asked her to move out. But I didn't expect what would happen next. Joanna lost it. She started shouting, "What's your problem? For the first time in my life, I'm happy and someone loves me. And there you are, trying to ruin this for me. And now you want to kick me out? It's not my fault you're single, Carrie. Maybe if you stopped being so jealous for a second, someone would like you back." I couldn't believe her. I wanted to scream. She was the worst. And the next morning, it got even worse. I was sitting with some friends before class started when suddenly Joanna walked in and burst into tears. People ran over to her and asked if she was okay, and that's when my blood ran cold. She started saying how I'd been bad-mouthing her boyfriend, and now I wanted to kick her out of our dorm. And then I heard my voice. I looked over, and she had her phone out and was playing a recording of our argument. Of course, she'd edited it to make me sound like the bad guy. Even my friends looked shocked, and Joanna told them all how I was a two-faced, good-for-nothing kind of girl and that I loved to gossip about everyone behind their backs. I tried to explain to everyone that Joanna was lying and that she was just angry, but everyone looked at me in shock. It was like they believed her. I was stunned. The next day, I noticed Joanna showing my friends some photos on her phone. They were screenshots of texts from me, but she'd edited them to create a total monster out of me. One time, Joanna had messaged me laughing about how my friend Valerie had the worst hairstyle ever, and I joked that she must have cut it by herself. And there was the message where Joanna talked about how Mitch said his ex, Anna, who was also our class president, must have been flirting with the economics teacher to get good grades. And I said, has Anna sunk that low? Not only having an affair with a married man, but basically committing academic fraud? I don't think she would do that, though. But of course, Joanna had cropped out the last sentence, and she didn't show her parts in the conversation either. By that way, I looked like the worst friend ever. I tried to tell them what Joanna was doing, but they were too hurt to believe me. But that's not all. You see, Joanna had sent these messages to the whole school. For the rest of the day, people were coming up to me and telling me I was nothing but a mean girl. And then at lunch, I went to sit in my usual spot with my friends, and suddenly they all jumped up and left me there alone. I could hear everyone whispering about me. And then the most popular girl, Amy, came over to me and said I was a disappointment to this college, and I didn't even deserve to be here. I couldn't hold back my tears, so I rushed back to my dorm. But standing there with her arms folded, blocking the door, was the dorm supervisor. She said that she'd received reports about my behavior and that I had 1 week to move out of the dorm. I didn't understand. What had I done? Apparently, people had told her I wanted to get her fired. And then I remembered Joanna saying those exact words and asked me how she could report to the manager. So I'd sent her a text explaining how to report her. Oh my gosh, she'd even used that against me? This was too much. I went to find Joanna. I was furious. She was ruining my life. When I got to class, I planned to show everyone our full chat conversations, unedited. But I didn't get the chance because Joanna was sobbing hysterically, and everyone was comforting her. She was saying how living with me was torture, and that she had to take medication to deal with me. Enough! How dare you! I screamed. Why are you doing this to me? What did I ever do to you? Joanna, of course, started crying even louder, and everyone stared at me like they wanted to kill me. I walked out of there feeling completely empty. I'd lost my friends, my dorm, my reputation, and every last bit of dignity, all because of that snake. I still didn't know what I'd done wrong. The more I tried to understand it, the more everyone defended Joanna. It was useless. No one listened to me. Eventually, I ignored them all, moved out of the dorm, and acted like Joanna didn't exist. Fortunately, I made some new friends that loved and trusted me and never twisted my words. As for gossiping about me that everyone else still did, I learned to block it out. And then about 4 months later, I got an email from Joanna. I was shocked. She said, "Carrie, I'm sorry. You were right all along. Mitch was cheating on me, and I should have listened to you. Please forgive me. I'm begging you. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I'll confess to everyone. Please, let's just be friends again. I miss you." Not in a million years. I deleted the email right away. There was nothing that she could do to ever make it up to me. She'd ruined my life, and I was done with that toxicity. Good riddance.
Hi, my name's Crystal, and my family are super wealthy. I have never needed to work, but I wanted to. So, me and my friend Alice decided to become entrepreneurs, and my dad helped fund our startup. We both love shopping, so we created a really cool app that helps you choose the latest trends to suit your body. And unlike my friends, I was single, but I didn't mind. In fact, I loved how free I felt. However, there was just one small problem. My parents weren't okay with this. They were desperate for me to find someone and get married, and that's when they decided to take matters into their own hands. They started setting me up on blind dates. I told them I could easily find my own date, but they said that whoever I dated had to come from a good, wealthy family. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't even interested in dating, especially as I'd had some really bad relationships in college. That's also why my parents wanted to find someone for me, as they'd hated the guys I'd dated before and didn't trust me that I wouldn't make the same mistakes again. I refused to go, but then my dad said something that sent chills up my spine. Okay, don't go, but then your startup is over. I'll take away all your funding. Wait, no, that couldn't happen. We'd worked so hard to build the app, and the only way we could afford it was with my dad's help. Fine, I'll go, but I can't promise I'll like these guys, I said. I went on the date, and then many more after that, and I quickly became an expert at making sure those boys wouldn't be interested in me. And yet still, I was keeping my parents happy by going on the dates. It was a win-win. But before I became a pro at this blind date game, there were many awkward and hilarious situations that I had to go through. On one of my first dates, we met up in the lounge of a hotel. All I knew was that the guy Trent owned the hotel and that his family were a big name in some hotel chains in the area. I was running late, and the parking lot in the basement was jam-packed. I finally managed to find an empty spot, and I was rushing to get to it. But then out of nowhere, another car also appeared and was heading for the same spot. We ended up bumping into each other. Both our cars got badly scratched, and mine even had a dent. Oh no, my baby. I was so upset. This was my Porsche that my parents had bought me for my sweet 16th. And even though I have a ton of other cars at home, this was my most favorite. Who would dare to hurt my child like this? I stomped out of the car and started yelling at the guy. He climbed out of his car and he was wearing a hat, so I couldn't really see his face, but I guessed he was younger than me. Could he be the valet parking boy or something? But then he started speaking and said that it was my fault because I'd been going in the wrong direction, and that he had every right to make me pay for the damage done to his car. What? He's the one who should have been paying for the damage on my car. Well, that just made me even more furious. And then he had the cheek to say he was in a rush, and he handed me his business card and said we'd settle this later. I snatched that card out of his hand and threw it in my bag without even looking. That would be my lawyer's problem, not mine. And to make matters worse, he had taken the parking spot. So now I still had to find somewhere else to park. It took me ages. And by then, I figured my date wouldn't have even waited for me. I arrived at the table that had been reserved for us, and of course he was already sitting there. From afar, I was impressed. He looked like a total babe. Maybe my parents' taste wasn't so bad after all, and his outfit was on point. In fact, I'd seen it somewhere before. Must have been a new trend. I said hi to him and sat down, but he just started laughing, and after like 1 minute of smiling at me, he said hi back. Then he started to introduce himself, and I realized who he was. He was the guy I just bumped into in the parking lot. Oh my God, this couldn't be happening. This was too awkward. I pretended to look for something in my bag and then quickly glanced at his name card. Yep, it said general manager on it. Oh man, I was doomed. I tried my best to act like nothing had happened. I mean, maybe he didn't recognize me. Ugh, who am I kidding? Of course he did. And as the date went on, he kept teasing me about it, saying that the parking spot was reserved for hotel staff. I was kind of bummed. I mean, he was so cute, and I'd completely ruined my chances. I felt bad for creating such a bad impression and begged him not to tell my parents. He agreed that it would be our little secret, and after that things were better. We actually got really close and even became good friends. You're probably wondering why we didn't hit it off. Well, turns out he's actually gay. He trusted me enough to come out to me. That's how close we were. He hadn't even told his parents yet. And that's why these blind dates are as much of a nuisance for him as they are for me. So, he's the one who helped me come up with the idea to act like a bad girl, to turn off the other guys on dates. All based on his actual experience of our date. Ever since then, whenever I went on a blind date, I was intentionally late so that I'd make the worst impression possible. I'd wear my bad girl outfit, which was an oversized black shirt, ripped jeans, and dirty sneakers. And of course, I'd always chew gum. Make sure to have this annoyed look on my face all the time. This drove rich guys crazy, and none of them ever asked for a second date with me. But one time, it didn't go to plan. The guy I was on a date with, Corey, he saw right through me and even had the guts to confront me about what I was trying to do. It made me so mad, and it was the worst date ever. But still, he told his parents that it went well, and he wanted to see me again. He surely wanted to pick a fight with me. Since he was the only guy that I'd been on a blind date with that had given positive feedback, my parents were super stoked upon hearing this, and they made me continue seeing him. Otherwise, they said they'd take away my cars and cancel my credit cards. I couldn't stand him. He was your typical bad boy player type who thought he owned the world. He didn't even work. His dad just made up a position for him in the family business. What a spoiled brat. And we didn't even actually date. He just rang me up anytime he wanted and made me go to places with him, as if I was just an accessory to him. It's such a waste of time, but what else could I do? One day, we were at the country club to celebrate his dad's 60th. It was so boring, so I snuck outside for a bit. He caught me playing on my phone, and he literally snatched it out of my hand and teased me with it. He thought it was hilarious until he realized that I'd been texting with Trent. Suddenly, he looked really distant. Then he asked if I was close to this guy. I didn't even have a chance to respond. He quickly returned my phone and just left me standing there. I didn't get it. Was he jealous or something? After that, he disappeared for a few weeks, which was really odd because normally he was all up in my face all the time. My parents were worried, and they forced me to go check to see if he was okay. Why is he so bothersome? I didn't want to go at all, but still, I had to. I got to his apartment, and the whole place smelled like alcohol. I mumbled in annoyance, "Hey, are you an alcoholic or something? I thought you'd maybe been sick, but okay then, I see." Then he said, "This is all because of you." I was confused. What had I done? I was about to leave when I noticed something. It was a crumpled photo of Trent and Corey. Oh my God. Am I seeing things or what? I picked it up. Corey glanced over and sighed. After a really awkward silence, Corey told me that Trent was his ex. What? So Corey was gay too? They broke up because they had planned to run away together because neither of them were brave enough to come out to their parents. But then Corey had bailed on the plan when his dad had offered him a position in the company and a huge inheritance. He couldn't give that up. Trent had been so hurt because Corey had chosen money over their relationship. It's been 2 years since then, and Corey regrets it a lot, but Trent won't even give him the time of day anymore. That's when Corey asked me to help him speak to Trent again. Oh God, I don't know if I should do it because I don't want Trent to date such a bad guy again. Plus, maybe Trent will just think I'm taking Corey's side and cut me out of his life too. But what if Corey really has changed?